Chapter 1924, The Foodie Shia 2. I don't know anything about Shia. Don't wrong me. The woman's expression suddenly changed, and she quickly shouted. Human, do you think we orcs are so easy to fool? Although the fragrance on your body has almost covered up Shi'er's smell, it can't hide from the nose of our beast clan. So I advise you to be sensible and hand Shi'er over. Otherwise, our leopard clan will have to ask the Divine Master to seek justice for us. The leopard threatened. Before they came to participate in the competition, the Divine Master's estate had made it clear that they would not allow humans to capture them and force them to acknowledge a master. Otherwise, they would definitely support them. It was precisely because of this promise that they dared to bring their descendants here to see the world. Otherwise, they would never have brought the little beasts here. Linu, if you're the one who took Junior Leopard away, hand him over. Hearing that leopard's words, Murong and I advised with a gloomy face. Although he was half convinced and half suspicious of that leopard's words, but based on his understanding of Linu, if Linu had really seen that little leopard, it was really possible for her to do such a thing. After all, Linu had always said that she wanted to get a better beast to be her contracted beast. Therefore, she had the motive to do this. It was just that the time was not right now, so he could not and would not condone Lin Er's actions. Murong Fei, which gang are you on? You're actually speaking to them? Hearing Murong Fei's words, Lin was enraged. I'm not siding with anyone. It's just that this can't happen at this moment. So, you'd better take the initiative to return that junior leopard before things get too bad. Otherwise, no one can save you. Murong Fei said impatiently. Towards this woman, his patience was almost exhausted. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin was his fiancée, he couldn't be bothered to care about her. However, having such a fiancée would not be a matter of peace. It seems that after returning, he would have to have a good talk with the elders in the clan, Murong Fei thought to herself. I've never seen any little leopards. Lin said stubbornly, a classic case of not crying until seeing the coffin. Fuck. You damn human, you really don't want face when I give it to you. I've already discussed this with you, but you're still so insensible. Don't blame me for being impolite. The leopard said angrily. After it finished speaking, it looked up to the sky and howled. When Murong and I saw this scene, she quickly cried out not good. In her heart, the leopard was looking for help. Lin, don't make me repeat myself. Return Junior Leopard to him. Murong Fei's face was black and her tone had become very stiff. Return what? I didn't see any little leopard. Lin Er's face was flushed red as she shouted at the top of her lungs. Murong Fei was very angry and really wanted to slap this troublesome woman to death. But in the end, he didn't do that. Instead, he said to Fengda and the rest, you can do whatever you want with this woman. I don't care anymore. When the people of the Murong family heard this, they knew that their young master was angry. However, their young master's decision was not wrong. This woman should indeed be taught a good lesson. She had caused trouble for them for no reason. She had taken away their child at this time. How could they not be angry? The nature of this matter was much more serious than their trip to the forest to catch beasts and make contracts. If the Divine Master's estate knew that someone had done such a thing in their territory, they would definitely be furious. At the thought of this, the way they looked at Lin became unfriendly. At this moment, deafening sounds of people running could be heard from the distance. The faces of the Murong clan members turned pale when they heard this. How many beasts were there? Those who were timid had already gone weak in their legs. However, Lin continued to hold on. She didn't believe that these animals would dare to do anything to her. Brother Feng, what do you think? Murong Di shot a glance at the unrepentant Lin, then turned to look at Fengda, his face gloomy. Young Master Murong, I can't do anything about this. Fengda said apologetically. If that damn woman had returned Junior Leopard just now, she wouldn't have called for help. But now, it seemed that they were in a difficult situation. AI. Murong Di sighed, and at this time, the distance was getting closer and closer. After a while, the beasts led by the leopard clan arrived. Not only that, but many other beasts from other clans also came. They were obviously here to support the leopard clan. When Murong Fei and the rest saw this, They immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. My heavens and earth! There was a black mass in front of him. How many beasts had come? Moreover, every beastie's eyes were filled with ferocity, and they looked at them with an extremely unfriendly gaze. Clan leader, she should have been taken away by this woman. The leopard quickly reported. Damned human! Hand over my grandson! The leader of the leopard clan roared in anger. He was an unusually large leopard and was in his original form. Hence, he was more than twice as tall as Lin. The pressure from his body made it hard for the Murong clan members to breathe. Lin Air's breathing also stopped and her face was abnormally pale. However, she still stubbornly said, I've never seen any shear. Fengda and the others didn't know what to say about her stubborn mouth. Did this woman really want to see a coffin before she shed tears? Wasn't this a little too cheap? He was looking for abuse. At this moment, no one was willing to sympathize with her. The Murong family members even subconsciously stayed away from her to avoid the leopard clan's anger. Hello, Patriarch Bao. I'm Murong and I, the young master of the Murong family. Seeing that the old leopard was about to get angry, Murong Hua quickly introduced himself. Not only that, but he also lowered his status very much. After all, the old leopard's strength was equivalent to a human reverent god. The Murong family? We've always minded our own business, but you've taken my grandson away. You're the one who provoked us first. Old leopard glanced at Murong Fei and said indifferently, but his tone was very unfriendly. Patriarch Bao, although this matter has nothing to do with the Murong family, Lin is my fiancée after all. Therefore, I am deeply regretful of what she has done. I hope that you can give me some time. I will try my best to make her hand over Junior Leopard. Murong and I said after thinking for a while. His words were also considered affectionate and righteous. He not only explained that this matter had nothing to do with the Murong family, but he also did not deny the relationship with Lin. At the same time, he also expressed his goodwill. In this way, even Old Leopard had a new level of respect for him. Good. If you can bring my grandson back unscathed, I will not blame the Murong clan for this. Old Leopard said after thinking for a while. Thank you for your magnanimity, Leopard Chief. Murong and I was very grateful, and at the same time, she heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the leopard clan would not vent their anger on her. However, how could she make Lin hand over Junior Leopard willingly? She was in a difficult position. After all, she knew Lin Air's character very well. She was a rather willful and unreasonable woman. However, she was not without her nemesis. Thinking of this, Murong and I had an idea. Chapter 1925. The Foodie Shia 3. After whispering to Old Leopard, the Murong family brought Lin Fengda, and the rest back to the imperial city. And Lin was also strictly guarded by Murong Dis men. Although the leopard clan had not found Junior Leopard yet, they did not continue to make things difficult for the Murong clan after knowing his whereabouts. However, there were a few more leopards patrolling outside the inn where the Murong clan stayed. After Lung Ruoxue heard Fengda and the others report, she guessed that Murong Fei must have thought of some idea. However, if it was her, she wouldn't be so gentle to that woman, especially when that woman had made her the scapegoat. However, she wanted to know what Murong Fei would do, so she decided to wait and see. Just as Lung Ruoxue and the rest were waiting with the members of the leopard clan, the competition between the magical beasts continued as scheduled. Although Fengda and the others still went to watch the battle every day, they did not dare to speak carelessly, in case they were scolded by the orcs again. However, with the leopard tribe's strong publicity, the orcs were much friendlier to them. This could be considered a pleasant surprise. A few days later, Murong Fei personally came to visit and sent Junior Leopard to Lung Ruoxue's residence. As soon as the Junior Leopard saw Lung Ruoxue, he immediately wrapped himself around her. Lung Ruoxue did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why did you send this little guy to me? Lung Ruoxue didn't understand. Shouldn't Murong Yuan have sent this little leopard to the leopard clan? One had to know that the little fellow's family had been worried to death over the past few days. I also want to. However, this little thing refused to go back and insisted that I bring it to you. Murong Fei said helplessly. Little guy, is there something you need from me? Lung Ruoxue bent down to pick up Junior Leopard and asked with a puzzled look. Good food, the little leopard said in a baby voice. It was still too small to speak properly. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. Could it be that this little fellow had snuck out of the leopard clan's territory just to ask for good food from her? In fact, she had guessed it right. This little leopard had left the leopard clan's protection because of his gluttony. He wanted to find Lung Ruoxue, but unfortunately, he had no idea where Lung Ruoxue lived. Hence, he had been coaxed by someone and left with Lin. Fortunately, Lin liked him and did not treat him badly. Otherwise, it would have left a shadow in his young heart. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's conflicted expression, Murong Fei couldn't help but snicker. It knew that you had good food in your hands, so it kept pestering me to bring it to you. In fact, the reason it was taken away by Lin was because Lin had promised it that she would bring it to you. However, Lin was clearly lying to it. This fact made Murong Fei rather speechless, but luckily he had already gotten used to it. You little glutton. Lung Ruoxue was helpless. In order to get good food from her, Junior Leopard kept playing around and acting cute. He even rolled around on her palm. Lung Ruoxue's heart softened when she saw this. After taking out a few fruits and placing them together with Junior Leopard on the table, Lung Ruoxue left it alone. Seeing that there was food, Junior Leopard also buried his head and started eating. At this moment, nothing was more important than eating. Seeing this, Murong Di couldn't help but smile. It seems like it really likes you. By the way, I've already sent someone to inform the Leopard clan. I believe that they'll be here soon. Who knew that just as Murong Fei's voice fell, a dong-dong sound rang out from outside the door. Feng De quickly went to open the door, and a group of anxious leopards ran in. Sheer, my sheer. The female leopard took the lead and rushed towards the little leopard that was eating happily. Junior Leopard raised his head and called out softly, Mother, you've come. After saying that, it lowered its head and began to eat again. Seeing this, the female leopard carefully sized up the little leopard. Seeing that it didn't seem to have suffered too much, she didn't disturb the little leopard's enjoyment of eating. Instead, she squatted by the table and looked at the snow-white little leopard on the table with a face full of love. At this moment, the leopard clan leader walked in front of Lung Ruoxue and the rest and said, Human, thank you for helping our leopard clan find Sheer. The leopard clan was extremely grateful for Lung Ruoxue and the rest's help. As for Murong Fei, she was completely ignored by the leopard tribe leader. After all, from his point of view, that was what Murong Fei should do to get rid of this disaster. Naturally, there was no need to thank her. Who asked the woman who stole Sheer to be in cahoots with them? Old Leopard was very clear about this. You're too kind, Chief Bao. It's all thanks to young Master Murong's cooperation that we were able to find Sheer. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Their people took Sheer away, so can't he just not cooperate? Old Leopard wasn't grateful to Murong Fei, but when Murong Fei heard this, she could only smile bitterly. After all, what Old Leopard said was right. The reason why he did this was all for the sake of the family. Little Murong, where's that woman? At this time, Old Leopard's shrewd eyes stared at Murong and I as he asked directly. She's still locked up in the inn. Murong Di said. Although he did not know what the Old Leopard wanted to do with Lin, he still told the truth. Without the Old Leopard's permission, he really did not dare to let Lin go. Oh, very good. If you hand over that damned human to me, the Murong family will have nothing to do with this. The Old Leopard said with satisfaction. I wonder how the Leopard clan leader plans to punish Lin. Murong Yuan could not help but ask. What's wrong? I can't bear to part with that woman. The Old Leopard's eyes glinted as he teased. No. However, the reason why Lin is willing to hand Sheer over is all thanks to her family's ancestor. So, if possible, please don't take it out on Lin Er's family. After all, this is only Lin Er's fault. Murong and I couldn't help but plead. Lin Er's stubbornness could only be cured by her ancestor. Therefore, as soon as this matter came out, she immediately sent people to invite Lin Er's ancestor over. And the ancestor's action was indeed effective. Although Lin was unwilling, she still handed Junior Leopard to them. Seeing that Junior Leopard was a little listless and not hurt, their hearts were immediately put at ease. Seeing that my Shia hasn't been hurt, I won't take my anger out on her and won't kill her, but she can be spared from death, but she still has to suffer. She's made us worry for several days, so we naturally won't let her have an easy time. You don't have any objections, do you? Old Leopard asked directly. After listening to Old Leopard's words, Murong and I was relieved and smiled. Lin Air's family's ancestors said that their family's younger generation is insensible. You can punish them however you want. They won't have any objections. As for himself, he would not have any objections. That's for the best, kid. When are you going to hand that woman over to me? Old Leopard couldn't wait anymore. He'll have someone send her to you in a while. Murong Fei hurriedly replied. Well, you're very smart, kid. Not bad. Old Leopard was very satisfied with Murong Fei's tactfulness. Following that, Murong and I exchanged a few more words with Old Leopard and then left. In the next few days, the Beast Races competition had also entered the semi-final stage. However, as the semi-finals began in full swing, a woman's wail could be heard from time to time in the Imperial City. The wail was extremely miserable, and everyone and the beasts could not help but feel their hairs stand on end. It was needless to say that the wail was from Lin. And these days the happiest one was undoubtedly that foodie Shia. In order to eat delicious food every day, it simply stayed at Lung Ruox's place and refused to leave. In order to protect its child, the female leopard had no choice but to stay. With them around, the leopards of the leopard clan naturally became frequent visitors. Furthermore, as long as they came to visit, Feng Da and the rest would entertain them with good food and drinks. In a few days, the relationship between Feng Da and the leopard clan had improved by leaps and bounds, and they were only short of calling each other brothers. The leopards were also surprised to find that after eating for a few days, their strong and well-proportioned bodies were gone, and each leopard had grown a circle of meat. This fact put many leopards on guard. After all, leopards were known for their speed. If they were too fat, their speed would naturally not be able to increase. However, with so many delicacies in front of them, it seemed quite difficult to make them just watch and not eat. Therefore, for a moment, the leopards were in a dilemma. But soon they came up with a good idea. Every time they had a full meal, they would take the initiative to fight with people. Needless to say, these people were none other than Feng Da and his men. With food and exercise, the leopards were happy, but Feng Da and the others were extremely depressed. They were trained by the leopards every day like dead dogs. Unless they were too tired to get up, the leopards would never stop clawing. As time passed, Feng Da and the rest suffered unspeakable hardships, but Lung Ruoxue was happy to see it happen. She even encouraged the leopards to find Feng Da and the rest to spar with. With Lung Ruox's permission, the leopards were even more motivated. Time passed. Very soon, it was time for the final stage of the Magical Beast competition. There were a total of 10 major races participating in the final stage. Other than the 4 kings of the Magical Beast race, the Fox race, Leopard race, Lion race, and other powerful Magical Beast races had also entered the final stage without any suspense. In reality, from Lung Ruox's point of view, there was no suspense in the finals. If there were no accidents, the champion should be one of the 4 king-level divine beasts. However, such a legitimate battle was also a rare opportunity for the beasts. Thus, the beasts who knew that they were only supporting roles were determined to give it their all. Chapter 1926, Banquet 1. On the day of the finals, it could be considered a grand event for the beast race. When Lung Ruoxue and the others arrived at the competition grounds, the audience seats were almost fully occupied. Seeing this, Feng Da could not help but click his tongue. He secretly transmitted his voice to Lung Ruoxue. "Miss, I didn't expect so many beasts to be watching a competition without any suspense. Didn't that old leopard say it? It was rare for the beasts to have such a lively atmosphere. Therefore, even the beasts who had no chance of winning the finals did not leave. We're late, and we don't know if there are any seats left." Lung Ruoxue said, feeling slightly depressed. The beast races competition would not specially reserve seats for the human race, so they had to make reservations in advance. However, there was no chance to make a reservation for the finals. Therefore, they had to arrive early and find their own seats. Initially, she thought that she and the others had arrived very early, but who knew that these beasts had arrived even earlier than them? Lung Ruox's beautiful eyes searched for empty seats, and she slowly felt depressed. As far as she could see, the audience seats seemed to have been filled. At this moment, a leopard walked up to them and grinned. "Why are you guys so late?" We thought we were early," Lung Ruoxue said, a little embarrassed. "Come with me. The chief has reserved a seat for you." The leopard smiled, then turned around elegantly to lead the way. Lung Ruoxue and the rest were elated when they saw this. It seemed like it was the right decision to build a relationship with the beasts. "Isn't there a seat now?" The leopard brought Lung Ruoxue and the rest to their assigned positions and pointed at the few empty seats beside them. "You guys can sit there." After saying that, it also found a place to sit down. The leopard clan had entered the finals, so their seats were allocated to them by the Divine Master's estate in advance. They were seated relatively at the front and had a good view. Lung Ruoxue and the others thanked them and sat down. Just as she sat down, Junior Leopard Shia came to look for Lung Ruoxue again. Her moist, silver eyes stared at Lung Ruoxue expectantly, but she did not say a word. However, Lung Ruoxue understood the moment she saw her. This little foodie was here for food. She helplessly took out a piece of dried meat and placed it in front of Shi-Er's mouth. Shi-Er unreservedly opened her mouth and bit it. Then, she jumped onto Lung Ruox's lap and started eating with ease. When the female leopard saw this, she stole an apologetic glance at Lung Ruoxue. She did not know what to say about her own child's gluttony. "Little girl, guess which of the 4 divine beast kings will win the championship?" The leopard tribe leader turned around and asked, successfully changing the topic. "I heard that the Qilin clan is the strongest among the 4 king divine beasts." Lung Ruoxue told Old Leopard what she had heard from the old phoenixes. You're right, but the number of people in the Qilin clan is the smallest, and can't be compared to the other 3 clans. Thus, it's hard to say who will win." Old Leopard reminded with a faint smile. "It can't be that the Qilin clan can't even find 3 clansmen, right?" Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. "Of course you can." The old leopard nodded. He understood what the little girl meant. As long as there were 3 people representing their race in the competition, and the participants were carefully selected by each race, they must have extraordinary strength. If that's the case, the Qilin clan has a great chance of winning. In reality, from the old phoenixes, she knew that the current dragon, phoenix, and white tiger clans were no longer the same as before. Many of their powerful cultivators had been sealed. Hence, the strength of the 3 clans was no longer as strong as before. As for the Qilin clan, the old phoenixes were not sure if they had been affected by the incident back then. After all, the Qilin clan had always kept a low profile compared to the other 3 clans. As such, they knew very little about the Qilin clan's situation. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue also wanted to choose one of these 4 races and interact with them. After much thought, she chose the Qilin race, which she knew the least. However, she was in a difficult position as to how she could approach the Qilin clan without making a sound. After all, this kind of divine beast clan with a transcendent status in the divine realm was not easy to get along with. More importantly, she could not be too brazen. That's reasonable. However, it won't be easy for the Qilin race to win the championship from the other 3 races. Although Old Leopard agreed with Lung Ruox's words, he did not fully agree with her. Well, wait and see. Lung Ruoxue still favored the Qilin clan. As the man and leopard conversed in low voices, the match on the field began. The first to fight was the Phoenix tribe and the Wolf tribe, using a 3-on-3 system. As soon as the whistle was blown, the Phoenixes released their auras. The werewolves who were standing in front of them began to tremble. Seeing this, the 3 Phoenixes immediately struck while the iron was hot. They kicked the 3 shivering wolves off the stage. With just one move, the Phoenix tribe won the battle, and most of it was due to the suppression of their bloodline. In reality, the suppression of the beast's bloodline had no advantage at all to those beasts whose bloodlines were not as noble as their own. Furthermore, using this move right from the start seemed unfair to the beasts. However, the beasts valued the strong more than the humans. Hence, what Lung Ruoxue thought was an unfair competition was not unacceptable to the beasts. After all, this kind of suppression was inborn and could be considered a natural advantage of high-end beasts. It couldn't be erased. The Phoenix clan had won their first battle. Next up were the White Tiger race and the Lion race. The beastie of these two races all looked majestic, especially the White Tiger race. In their true forms, not only were they huge in size, they were also unbelievably beautiful. Although the White Tiger tribe didn't display the might of their bloodline as the Phoenix tribe did, their roars still had a certain suppressive effect on the ferocious beasts. This was also a signal for them to attack. Sure enough, as soon as the long tiger roar ended, 3 graceful white tigers leaped into the air like 3 white lightning bolts, attacking the Lion clan. The Lion clan was completely defeated. The White Tiger clan directly entered the next round without any dispute. After that, it was the Dragon clan's turn. The last was the Qilin clan. The 4 great king divine beasts had all defeated their opponents without any suspense, and they had not fought in the first round. After that, through Old Leopard's explanation, Lung Ruoxue and the rest found out that the 4 king divine beasts had entered the finals as seeded teams. Hence, it was destined that they would not meet each other in the first round of the finals. The following matches would use the referee ring system. Apart from the Dragon, Phoenix, White Tiger, and Qilin races, the other beast race that had entered the top 5 was actually the Fox race, which did not appear to be very strong. The 5 teams would each compete in 4 matches, and the final rankings would be determined by the total points. The 5 clans round-robin tournament was divided into 4 days. Each day would have 1 round. The opponents would be decided by drawing lots. In other words, there were still 4 days before the elite grand meeting would end. Chapter 1927. The Banquet 2. Before the start of the competition, Lung Ruoxue had informed Feng De and the others that they would be leaving immediately after the competition. After the 5 clans round-robin tournament had officially started, the atmosphere in the competition ground became even more heated. If it wasn't for the fact that the Leopard clan had taken a spot for Lung Ruoxue and the others, they would have been standing and watching the battle. There were 2 matches on the first day, and 4 teams were participating. The Phoenix clan had a bye. The Dragon race's opponent was the White Tiger race, while the Qilin race's opponent was the Fox race. There was no suspense in the battle between the Qilin race and the Fox race. The battle between them was almost one-sided. Therefore, the Qilin race's competition ended in less than 10 minutes, which included the time when the 2 races stared at each other. Whereas the Dragon race and White Tiger race's match was evenly matched. The 2 races fought until it was hard to decide. In the end, the Dragon race only used a slight advantage in the air and narrowly won the White Tiger race, obtaining victory in the first match. After the match, Old Leopard said with emotion, "AI. There's no way we can compete with those flying in the sky. It's good to have wings." It was a little envious, jealous, and hateful. What's there to be envious about? Apart from the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan, the other beasts that entered the finals didn't have wings. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the Old Leopard who was remorseful and reminded him, "That may be so, but having wings isn't too much." The Old Leopard sighed. Among the godly skills of the wind attribute, isn't there the art of flying? Therefore, not all of the people who run on the ground can't fly. Lung Ruoxue laughed. "Little girl, not all of the wind attribute divine skills of our beasts have the ability to fly. Therefore, many of the beasts with the wind attribute can't fly, but their running speed is faster than many beasts, such as our Leopard clan." Old Leopard explained. "Oh." Lung Ruoxue nodded. It was no wonder the Old Leopard was so depressed. Among these leopards, a good portion of them had the wind attribute. It was a pity that their divine skills were different from humans. "AI. Girl, let's go back." The Old Leopard was obviously listless. Lung Ruoxue nodded and left the arena with the Leopard clan. For the next 2 days, Lung Ruoxue didn't go to the competition venue to watch the matches. However, Feng De and the rest did. Furthermore, after they returned, They reported to her about the matches with exaggerated details. As for the matches in the past 2 days, other than the White Fox clan who played the role of accompanying the Crown Prince to read, the other 4 clans had their own victories and losses. The difference in points between them wasn't that big, so the match tomorrow would be extremely important. Among the 5 clans, the Phoenix clan was temporarily in first place, followed closely by the Qilin clan. And on the last day, their opponents were the Dragon race and the Tiger race. On the morning of the last day of the competition, Leng Ruoxue and the others headed to the competition grounds after packing up. Their seats were still reserved for them by the Leopard clan. After today, the elite competition will truly end. In the audience stand, Old Leopard sighed again. Will you leave immediately after the match? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. For the past 2 days, she had been thinking about how she could get close to the Qilin clan. However, all the plans she had come up with had been rejected by the spiritual beasts. Hence, she could only give up on this idea for now. Although there's a banquet in the Divine Master's estate, we magical beasts are not interested in those things. So, we'll be leaving as soon as the competition is over. The Old Leopard nodded. A banquet? Leng Ruoxue was a little surprised. Why didn't she hear about any banquet after the human race's competition ended? Could it be that the Divine Master's estate was also receiving preferential treatment? It's a tradition, and it's the same for you humans after the competition. The Old Leopard laughed. How come I didn't know? Leng Ruoxue was confused. Even if you know, you might not go, right? So, I guess someone has rejected it for you. The Old Leopard said with certainty. Although it had not spent a long time with this little human girl, it had a clear understanding of her character. This girl was very lazy. Why would she attend a banquet? Could it be Godfather? Leng Ruoxue guessed. In fact, she had guessed it right. The master of the Ning family had indeed declined the invitation for her. To be more precise, he had not informed her at all and had attended in her place in the name of the Ning family. Master Ning's actions were the result of a discussion between the few old men. After all, they did not wish for Leng Ruoxue to face the Divine Master so soon. It's possible. That banquet isn't really that interesting, so it's better to go home earlier. Old Leopard laughed drily. Leng Ruoxue nodded. In reality, she wasn't too interested in banquets and the like. As the saying goes, there's no such thing as a good banquet. Who knew what would happen at a banquet? Little girl, when the competition is over, why don't we go together? At this time, Old Leopard suggested. All right. Leng Ruoxue did not have any objections to this suggestion. Furthermore, she knew that the Leopard clan's territory was on the way to her own land of evil demons. Suddenly, a loud phoenix cry resounded through the sky. Leng Ruoxue and the rest's attention was instantly drawn to the competition ground. The match began. The 2 matches on the last day would be held simultaneously for the sake of fairness. The battle between the dragon and the phoenix. The collision between the Qilin and the white tiger attracted the attention of many beasts. Naturally, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were attracted as well. In the middle of the arena, there were 2 huge rings, and each of them had 6 huge beasts. They were arrogant and proud of themselves. A dragon's cry, a phoenix's cry, a tiger's roar, and a Qilin's roar rang out continuously. Following that, several figures that were as fast as lightning tangled together. The beasts, Leng Ruoxue, and the rest could only see a blur in front of them. Other than that, there were also the sounds of explosions caused by the collision of divine skills. At this moment, half of the sky was dyed red, and the temperature rose rapidly. Without asking, Leng Ruoxue and the rest knew that this was the Phoenix clan's natal flame burning. In contrast, it was the Dragon clan's dragon breath. It was also something used to roast people, so the temperature rose rapidly. However, the White Tiger clan seemed to be opposing them. The 3 white tigers on the stage actually used water attribute divine skills in unison. In an instant, the temperature dropped by a lot. A light drizzle started to fall from the sky. When the Qilin clan saw this, they did not want to be outdone and continued to kick out with their hooves. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew on the arena. What are the 4 clans doing? Seeing their performance, Lung Ruoxue felt a headache. Could this still be considered a competition? It was clearly battle energy. Girl, you'll get used to it. They've always been like this. On the surface, they look harmonious, but in reality, the four clans are all competing with each other. Old Leopard said. Then can this competition be completed in passing? Lung Ruoxue asked with uncertainty. I can. They were all determined to compete for superiority. Besides, the Phoenix kind had the upper hand in the competition a few days ago. Therefore, the other three clans are all holding their breath. Old Leopard said with an evil smile. Chapter 1928, The Banquet, 3. Oh. I hope they don't destroy the public property of the Divine Master's estate. Lung Ruoxue looked at them and started to worry for the Divine Master's residence out of boredom. However, just as she finished speaking, everyone and the beasts heard a bang. Bang. A few loud bangs were heard. After that, they saw the tall and sturdy stage collapse magnificently. At this moment, the dragon race and the phoenix race were floating in midair, facing each other. As for the white tiger race and the Qilin race, they had naturally landed on the empty ground in the middle of the stage, glaring at each other like tigers eyeing their prey. Miss, you're really good at divination. Fengde was speechless. Divine calculation? You'd rather say I'm a jinx. Lung Ruoxue lifted her eyelids slightly and said in an unpleasant tone. I wouldn't dare. Fengde quickly said, although he had thought of it in his heart. As a man, if you dare to think, you must dare to admit it. Seeing through Fengde's thoughts, Lung Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. In fact, she didn't think there was anything wrong with her doomsayer mouth. It didn't belong to her anyway, so she wouldn't feel bad if it was destroyed. Mrs. Right, Captain, you're not being honest. When Lin Yuan saw this, he added fuel to the fire. Miss? Fengde glared at Lin Yuan and looked at Lung Ruoxue pitifully. However, Lung Ruoxue only snorted coldly and turned her beautiful eyes to the competition arena. These two matches could be considered a destruction of the Divine Lord's residence. After the four clans had destroyed the stage, they had also attacked the audience. At this moment, almost half of the seats had been destroyed by them. The beasts who were watching the battle from the audience had scattered like birds and beasts. The judge had even maintained a safe area with them. However, Lung Ruoxue and the others remained calmly in their seats. Little girl, the competition seems to be quite dangerous. Why don't we go back first? Seeing the four clans' stance of not giving up until one of them died, the old leopard was a little timid. If he accidentally hurt his leopards, he would be heartbroken. Old leopard's words made Lung Ruoxue's forehead fill with black lines. What was going on? The match wasn't over yet, and he had to leave early? Little girl, in the previous matches, these four clans actually didn't use their full strength, so I think they're all holding back and waiting for this last match. And this last battle should be considered a battle of life and death between them. I think we should just hide. Old Leopard made his words more clear and looked at Lung Ruoxue with anticipation, hoping that she would advance and retreat with him. But if we leave, we won't know who will win the championship. Lung Ruoxue was a little hesitant. It doesn't matter. Staying alive is more important. The four clans seem to be ruthless. If we continue to watch the battle, we will certainly be affected. It's not worth it. Old Leopard advised earnestly. All right then. Although it was a pity, Lung Ruoxue had to admit that Old Leopard's words made sense. Furthermore, if they were injured because of watching the competition between the four clans, they probably wouldn't be able to get any compensation. Thinking about it this way, it was more worthwhile to leave this place. After making their decision, Lung Ruoxue and the rest followed the leopard clan and left the competition grounds. Following behind them were many other beasts. After all, they understood that there were many beasts. After leaving the arena, Huan Chen's voice rang out in Lung Ruoxue's heart. Little girl, quickly leave this place. Huan Chen couldn't wait any longer when the competition was about to end. All right then. Seeing how anxious Huan Chen was, Lung Ruoxue could not bear to dampen his spirits. After all, She was the one who wanted to stay and watch the beast races competition. Huan Chen had wanted to leave long ago. Now that the beast races competition was coming to an end, she naturally had no reason to stay. After communicating with the old leopard, the group of people left the imperial city quietly with the leopard clan. Huan Chen heaved a sigh of relief after leaving the imperial city without any hindrance. However, he knew very well that this was only because his smokescreen had worked temporarily. It wouldn't take long for that woman to react. At that time, the divine realm would probably not be at peace. However, the law did not have its responsibilities. He had given so many divine artifacts to people. Even if that woman wanted to investigate, it would probably take a long time. By that time, the little girl's strength should have improved. At the thought of this, Huan Chen's mood was obviously better. He did not continue to urge Leng Ruoxue to hurry. By the time they returned to the land of demons, Leng Ruoxue was surprised to find that their house had already been built. Looking at the familiar house, Leng Ruoxue and the others were all excited, especially Leng Qingtian. He had deep feelings for his home in the water margin continent. After all, it carried too many memories. Therefore, when he saw that the god world had a home like the water margin continent, he was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. "Grandpa!" Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but call out in worry when she saw how agitated her grandfather was. "Ha! Shui, fine. I was just too excited." Leng Qinggan wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes as he spoke in embarrassment. "Old man, why are you so excited? Go and occupy a room, our rooms will be taken away by others." When the disheveled old man saw this, he could not help but roar. This was because he knew that the first elder and the others from the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters had already gone to choose their own rooms. They really didn't know what being polite was. He couldn't help but complain in his heart. However, he only dared to think about it in his heart and didn't dare to say it out loud. After all, those people were his elders. With that said, the disheveled old man ran off. Leng Ruoxue looked at the disheveled old man's anxious actions and could not help but laugh. In reality, no one would occupy their rooms at all. This was because when she first built this house, she had reserved rooms for those who were on good terms with her. Furthermore, there were many guest rooms in this house. There were also 2 other courtyards that were not considered small. Other than that, she also had a personal room given to her by the Great Elder. No matter how she looked at it, she would not be short of accommodation. "Master, this is our surprise for you." Seeing its master's excited expressions, the Silver Rat King said in a soft voice with a shy face. Thank you, I really didn't expect the house to be completed so quickly." Leng Ruoxue was really happy. It's all thanks to the help of the beastmen in the land of evil demons. Otherwise, the house wouldn't have been built so quickly. The Silver Rat King didn't dare to claim credit and quickly said, "Yes, I know. Silver Rat King, go and invite them to be my guests tomorrow night. I want to properly thank them." Leng Ruoxue ordered after some thought. "No problem." The Silver Rat King replied and immediately left the house. At this moment, the leopard tribe members who had finished touring the area came to them with faces full of admiration. The beasts had always been comfortable with their own residence. However, after seeing such an exquisite and beautiful house, they actually became envious. The old leopard even felt that his decision to visit Leng Ruoxue's territory was a wise and great decision. Otherwise, they would not have been able to see such a good house. As a matter of fact, Leng Ruoxue's house was not very outstanding compared to many beautiful palace-level buildings in the divine world. However, the house was very practical. Moreover, the feeling of home was unusually warm and strong, even making people involuntarily indulge in it. This was something that many beautiful but cold palaces could not compare with. Otherwise, Old Leopard would not be so envious. "Little girl, this house of yours is really not bad. I wonder if I can often bring my clansmen over to be guests in the future?" The old leopard asked deliberately. In fact, it was a greeting in disguise. "Of course you can." Leng Ruoxue and the rest got along well with the leopard clan, so they naturally wouldn't reject them. Then I won't be polite." Old Leopard nodded with satisfaction. "No need to be polite, Just treat this place as your own home. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. She had always been generous to her friends. Yes, yes. The old leopard nodded his head repeatedly. Lung Ruoxue's words were exactly what he wanted. In particular, the spirit-gathering formation that Lung Ruoxue had set up made Old Leopard even more determined to come here often in the future. At this time, he had never thought that not only would he bring his clansmen here often, but he would also move his territory here. The next day, Lung Ruoxue then instructed Feng De and the rest to prepare a large amount of food to entertain the beasts that had been invited. When the beasts arrived excitedly, they were dumbfounded when they saw the dazzling array of dishes on the long table in the garden. What were these? The dishes on the table were all things that they had never seen before. Furthermore, the fragrance of the dishes had reached their noses from far away. If they were not afraid of embarrassing themselves in front of Lung Ruoxue, they would have pounced on the delicious food. Looking at the bewildered expressions on the bewildered faces of the bewildered beasts, Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly and said, "I don't know what you like, so I ordered people to prepare some dishes of all kinds. There are stir-fried vegetables, hot pot, cold dishes, and your most common barbecue." Lung Ruoxue continued. Following that, she carefully introduced how to eat the various dishes. Many of the beasts were very interested in the small pots and asked about how to eat the hot pot. After Lung Ruoxue answered them one by one and demonstrated to them, the beasts were tempted to give it a try. A fire wolf had just picked up a piece of meat as thin as a cicada's wing with its claws when it was knocked away by its companion. "What are you doing?" The fire wolf that wanted to eat meat growled angrily. "Don't use your claws, that's rude." His companion reminded him in a low voice. Chapter 1929, Meeting Huan Chen, 1. Then what should I use? The fire wolf was confused. They had been eating for so many years, but they had always used their claws. "Use the chopsticks, you pig!" His companion roared in exasperation. "You're the pig. I'm clearly a wolf." When the fire wolf heard that it was being called a pig, it was immediately enraged. "All right, you're a wolf that's stupider than a pig," his companion said in a low voice. As for how he knew that pigs were stupid, he had naturally heard about it from Feng De and the others, and he had remembered it. "You said I'm stupid? Don't tell me you know how to use chopsticks?" The fire wolf glanced at the long and thin chopsticks in Lung Ruoxue's hand, its face full of dissatisfaction. Chopsticks were things that humans like to use. How would they know how to use them? "I also don't know how to—" His companion lowered his head in shame. At the same time, he was thinking to himself. Although he didn't know how to use chopsticks, at least he knew that he couldn't use his claws in front of so many important human figures. Otherwise, where would the reputation of the Fire Wolf clan be? "Then why did you say I'm stupid?" The Fire Wolf glared at its companion in anger. "I just wanted to remind you. We have to be careful of our influence." His companion lowered his head and whispered. Although the two wolves' conversation was very soft, it still reached Lung Ruoxue and the rest's ears without missing a single detail. When they heard the conversation between the two little beasts, they could not help but laugh. Little Shui, these little fellows are quite interesting." The master of the Ning family laughed heartily. He couldn't deny that these two little things had made him happy. "Yup." Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. She had always felt that beasts were cuter than humans. After some thought, Lung Ruoxue smiled and said, "You don't have to be so formal. I invited you here today to thank you. So, you can eat whatever you want. You don't have to care about what we think. We don't mind." "Ha, that's right. Everyone, do as you please." The master of the Ning family agreed. When the two little beasts heard this, they immediately opposed in unison, "No. We have to follow the rules and not embarrass the wolf tribe." In fact, what the two beasts were thinking was that since they would be neighbors with these humans in the future, they naturally couldn't be as casual as before. They had to learn some human rules. They weren't afraid that these humans would look down on them, but for the sake of their beastly reputation. Since that's the case, you can start with the chopsticks," the master of the Ning family said with a smile, not trying to persuade them. The two little beasts nodded and were about to pick up the chopsticks on the table. However, when they looked at their claws, they were in a dilemma. Although their claws were separated into pieces, they were very short. Moreover, most of them were meat pads. The sharpest claws and toes were obviously not suitable for holding chopsticks. What should they do? The two little beasts stared at each other, and then they reached for the chopsticks on the table together. However, the round bamboo chopsticks were as slippery as a loach, and they could not pick them up at all. "They'll grab it. They'll grab it. I don't believe it." The dignified Fire Wolf clan could not do anything to two small chopsticks. The two little beasts thought to themselves at the same time, but they really couldn't do anything about the two chopsticks. However, the two little beasts were very determined. More importantly, they had already gotten into a fight with the two chopsticks in front of them. They wouldn't let this matter rest until they got their hands on the two detestable chopsticks. Seeing the two of them so insistently wanting to learn how to use chopsticks, Lung Ruoxue and the rest could not bear to continue watching. Although they found it funny at the start, they did not think so after watching for a long time. Wasn't it making things difficult for the wolves by letting them use chopsticks that humans were good at? Initially, Lung Ruoxue did not expect them to use chopsticks. However, these two stubborn little fellows were actually at loggerheads with the pair of chopsticks. Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not know whether to laugh or cry at this fact. However, the other beasties who were here to attend the banquet were probably even more depressed. Although they had thought of using chopsticks before, they retreated when they saw that the two wolf pups had spent so much effort but could not hold the tiny bamboo chopsticks in their paws. Moreover, many of the beasties were praying in their hearts not to let them succeed. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing for them if they used their claws while the other two were using chopsticks. However, hearing the sound of chopsticks falling on the table, it seemed to be embarrassing for all the beasts. For a moment, the beasties were in a dilemma. The thoughts of wanting them to succeed, but at the same time afraid of them succeeding, alternated in their hearts. In the end, they could not figure out their own thoughts. After a long time, the two wolf pups were still unable to master how to use the chopsticks. Lung Ruoxue and the rest of the beasties could only sigh and admire their unyielding determination. The food was cold, and the humans and beasts were all hungry. In the end, Baby couldn't help but eat it first. Seeing that a beast had taken the lead to eat, the beasts also started to gobble down the food without holding back. In an instant, many beasts' mouths were stuffed with food, and their claws were also full of food. Their eyes were fixed on the other food on the table. They were eating what was in their claws and looking at what was in their bowls. Lung Ruoxue and the rest looked at the way the beasties ate like a swarm of locusts. They could not help but feel grateful that they did not sit at the same table with those big eaters. Otherwise, they would have long since lost their share of the food. Thinking up to this point, they started digging in. As everyone ate, they admired the two wolf pups who spared no effort in learning how to use chopsticks. They deeply admired their enthusiasm for learning. At this moment, a surprised voice rang in everyone's ears, "I know how to use it." Instantly, black lines appeared on the foreheads of everyone and the beasts. Had all finished eating. "I'm going to pick it up too." The other one also called out happily. Everyone was even more silent. Sensing the strange atmosphere, the two wolf pups were confused. What was going on? They had learned how to use chopsticks, but why were no humans or beasts happy for them? Not getting the expected praise, the two wolf cubs were very depressed. However, when they accidentally saw the mess on the table, they were even more depressed. "Where's the food? Where did all the food go?" The two little wolves howled in disbelief. Then they looked at each other. From each other's eyes, they saw disbelief. "We've finished them all." An elder of the Fire Wolf clan couldn't help but speak up when he saw that no one was paying attention to his clansmen. "What? How could he do this? You've really gone too far." The two wolf pups howled in anger. Then the crowd and the beasts saw the two wolf pups, who were on fire from anger, burst into tears. More black lines appeared on everyone's foreheads. Why was she crying? Chapter 1930, Meeting Huanqin 2. Why are you guys crying? Don't cry. Elder Hualang's face burned when he saw this. How embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. You've all eaten your fill, why don't you let us cry? We're still hungry. One of the wolf pups howled, while the other glared at its elder. His own clansmen. He didn't even know how to leave some for them. Don't cry, there's still some food left. Elder Hualang had a headache and couldn't help but sneak a glance at his king. These two little wolves were the younger generation of the king's bloodline and were considered the nephews of the clan leader. Therefore, he couldn't hit them or scold them. He could only coax them. Vegetables. Upon hearing this, the two little fire wolves raised their teary eyes and looked at the table, instantly becoming even angrier. There were indeed some leftovers on the table, but they were all vegetables. They were carnivores. How could he only eat vegetables? They wanted to eat meat. They were carnivorous. Do you think we're rabbits? The two little fire wolves were angry, and the consequences were serious. Eating more vegetables is good for the body. The fire wolf elder said in a low voice. When the two little fire wolves heard him say that, they really wanted to jump up and bite him. Wasn't he just standing there and talking without feeling the pain in his back? They were all eating until their brains were full, but he had to eat vegetables like a rabbit? This was really bullying the wolf. Yes, I'll suggest to Uncle that I should give you more vegetables in the future, one of the small wolves said in a gloomy voice. The other one didn't want to be outdone and continued, I suggest that the wolf tribe should eat vegetables instead. We can't let go of good things that are good for health, right, Uncle? I'm just a bystander. The queen will make the decisions for the wolf tribe. The Wolf King saw that he had been innocently named and quickly said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he immediately received countless disdainful eyes, among which Feng Da and the others were the most. This was because the Wolf King had stolen the term soy sauce from them. I say, Wolf King, you're the king of a clan, how can you do this? Feng Da couldn't help it. This old wolf was too embarrassing for men. How did I do? The Wolf King didn't think that he had done anything wrong. In fact, he had always thought that he was very democratic and listened to the opinions of his clansmen for all matters. He was also a good man who listened to his wife. What a rare quality this was. You're too irresponsible. Feng Da pointed it out directly. I am very responsible. If I don't take responsibility, where did my child come from? The Wolf King rolled his eyes and said with a you don't understand look. This is the same thing? Feng Da was speechless. He and Wolf King were not on the same channel. Otherwise, why would it be so difficult for them to communicate? More importantly, the Wolf King didn't answer the question. Of course. The Wolf King said matter-of-factly. All right, it's my fault for not being able to understand. Feng Da was defeated. It's good that you know. The Wolf King pushed his nose up. Feng Da was furious. After taking a deep breath, he decided not to stoop to the level of a wolf. Of course, he kept silent. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue laughed to herself. This Wolf King was a pain in the ass. How could Feng Da possibly explain it to him? After some thought, Lung Ruoxue smiled and said, Wolf King, it's getting late. Shouldn't you all go back? She was a little tired. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the Wolf King widened his eyes in disbelief. Are you chasing us away? How could you do this? We're not leaving yet. You've already eaten. Are you planning to stay the night? Hearing the Wolf King's words, Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless. The other beasties could not help but distance themselves from the Wolf King. It was too embarrassing to stand next to it. Why can't I? We're neighbors, so it's only right for you to let us stay for a night. Besides, it's so late now, and it's not safe for us to walk at night. If anything happens, you'll feel guilty, right? The Wolf King said shamelessly. It wasn't that he didn't want to leave, but the food here was too attractive to him. Moreover, the spiritual energy in this house was much richer than outside, so he really couldn't bear to leave just like this. What if I say I don't feel guilty? Lung Ruoxue was helpless against the Wolf King. She had never seen such a thick-skinned beastie before. Furthermore, the evil demon's land was their territory. Would they be in danger here? She would not believe it even if she was beaten to death. How is that possible? You can't be that inhumane. You're a good person. I'm very clear about that. So, quickly arrange rooms for us. I see that there are quite a few empty rooms here. The Wolf King urged. In any case, it had already made up its mind not to leave. However, after it had finished speaking, it noticed that Leng Ruoxue and the rest did not move. It then continued, Forget it. I won't trouble you, I'll do it myself, I'll go find a nice room myself. With that, the Wolf King turned around and left to find a room for himself. Seeing the Wolf King's self-introduction and shameless actions, Feng De and the others were even more speechless. No wonder this guy was so famous in the land of evil demons. It seemed that he had no choice but to admit defeat. Miss, are we just going to let it be like this? After a long while, Feng De whispered to Leng Ruoxue. Do you have any good ideas? Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. Actually, from a certain aspect, she still admired Wolf King. But I don't have any. Feng De didn't want to deal with the Wolf King. At this moment, the Fire Wolf clan's queen walked to Leng Ruoxue's side with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'll try to persuade it to leave. It doesn't matter, just let it stay for one night. You guys can stay too. After all, we're neighbors. Leng Ruoxue said generously. The beasts in her house had put in a lot of effort, so it was normal for them to stay the night. Thank you. Then we won't be polite. Upon hearing this, the Wolf Queen quickly said. In fact, it was also quite curious about this house. You're welcome. Leng Ruoxue left. Then, she turned to the other beastie. It's indeed a little late today. All of you should stay the night and go back tomorrow morning. In any case, it didn't matter if they kept one or a group. When the beasts heard this, they were all excited. In fact, they had been drooling over this house for a long time. They had seen it with their own eyes, but they had no chance to live in it. It was impossible not to be tempted. Although they also felt that the Wolf King's thick skin was a little embarrassing, they were quite grateful to the old wolf now. If it was not so shameless, they would not have had the chance to live here. Feng De helped them make the arrangements. Leng Ruoxue looked at the happy beastmen and instructed Feng De. There were too many of them, so one room per person would definitely not be enough. Yes. Feng De replied. Then, with a wave of his hand, he led the beasts out of the garden. However, the two hungry little fire wolves did not leave with Feng De. Chapter 1931. Meeting Huan Qin, 3. Sister. We haven't eaten anything yet. The two little fellows looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully, their eyes still misty. Don't worry, Grape has already gone to prepare food for you. Leng Ruoxue coaxed. She had never been able to resist these cute little fellows. So, before they cried, she had already asked Grape to prepare some food. She couldn't really let these two little things go hungry. Big sister is the best. It's much better than those old fogies who think that eating vegetables is good for health. From tomorrow onwards, they will be eating vegetables. A wolf cub said hatefully. Yes, but can you two make the decision? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Of course. We're in charge of the wolves' food. The two wolf pups said at the same time. You guys are really capable. Leng Ruoxue praised. She didn't expect these two little things to be so difficult to deal with. She started to pity those old wolves. Hee hee. The two wolf pups laughed evilly. At this moment, Grape had finished preparing 2 portions of food and placed them in front of the two wolf pups. Instantly, the fragrance of the food filled the air, causing the two little fellows to drool. Without waiting for Leng Ruoxue's order, the two wolf pups pounced towards the food. They had completely forgotten about the chopsticks. Who asked them to be so afraid? Before they could even master the chopsticks, the food would be gone. Therefore, he would have to slowly practice using chopsticks in the future. After watching the two little fellows gobble down the food and arranging a place for them to stay, Leng Ruoxue and the rest returned to their rooms to rest. The next morning, Leng Ruoxue had just walked out of her room when she heard a pained wail coming from the guest courtyard not far away. Filled with suspicion, everyone went to the guest courtyard at the same time. What's going on? Seeing that unreliable old wolf king rolling around on the ground shamelessly, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were all speechless. What was he up to again? He was fine. I'm fine. When the wolf queen heard Lung Ruoxue's words, her face was filled with awkwardness. She secretly glared at her troublesome man. This detestable thing. This was someone else's territory, yet he had caused their firewolf clan to lose so much face. Are you sure you're fine? Lung Ruoxue was in disbelief. Looking at the old firewolf, it didn't look like he was fine. Moreover, this was her home after all, so she felt that it was better for her to ask clearly. Yes, yes. The wolf queen nodded with certainty. However, at this moment, the old wolf king shouted with a dissatisfied expression, "Who said he's fine? We're your guests. How can you abuse us like this? Damn it. You shut up." Without giving Lung Ruoxue and the others a chance to react, the wolf queen furiously pulled the old wolf king's ear and growled in a low voice. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest heard the old wolf king's words, they were dumbfounded. What was going on? When did they abuse them? Wolf queen, don't stop it, I want to hear how we mistreated it. After a moment of silence, Lung Ruoxue finally spoke. Miss Lung, don't listen to its nonsense. The wolf queen's face was filled with shame as she kept glaring at her man. There are no waves without wind. I believe that the fire wolf king wouldn't lie. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. Human, you know me very well. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the old fire wolf king's face was filled with pride. It was just short of raising its tail proudly. However, its proud expression, coupled with its image of rolling on the ground, made people speechless. Then tell me, Lung Ruoxue sighed. Then I won't be polite. You've been abusing me, feeding me vegetables early in the morning. I want tea. I want to eat meat. The fire wolf king roared in one breath. We haven't even started making breakfast yet. Where did you get the vegetables to eat? Upon hearing this, Grape could not help but doubt. What? You haven't made breakfast yet? Are you guys trying to starve me to death? Grape's words made the Fire Wolf King even angrier. Looking at the Fire Wolf King's reaction, Grape could not help but roll his eyes. Damn it. That's not the main point, okay? Why did this old Fire Wolf always give irrelevant answers? I really don't know what the structure of its brain is. It's so different. I'm asking you where you got the vegetables to eat? After a long while, Grape gritted his teeth and said, Miss Grape were the ones who gave this to Uncle. At this moment, two little fire wolves appeared out of nowhere and said, So that's how it is. Firewolf King, did you hear that? This is none of our business. We didn't abuse you. Grape quickly said, You guys didn't make me breakfast. The Fire Wolf King emphasized. It no longer used the word abuse. Uncle, we're guests, we have to be self-aware. Don't bother Grape's sister and the others with breakfast, we've already prepared it for you. Hurry up and eat. It won't taste good if it's cold. A little fire wolf urged with an evil smile. When the crowd heard the little fire wolf's words, they couldn't help but compare the two fire wolves in their hearts. So, the young one was more understanding than the old one. This old fire wolf was really regressing the more he lived. However, none of them had any intention of getting involved in the dispute between the fire wolves, so they all kept silent. I don't want to eat the breakfast you guys made. Old Fire Wolf looked at the vegetables on the table that had been cooked into a dark green color and said with a look of disgust, Uncle, you are hurting us by saying that. The two little fire wolves revealed a sad expression at the same time and spoke in unison. I appreciate your filial piety, but don't even think about making me eat the food you make. The old Fire Wolf King was very stubborn. That was pig food, wasn't it? It wasn't for wolves at all. Uncle, eating vegetables is good for your health. Uncle, hurry up and eat. The two little fire wolves ignored the Fire Wolf King's words and simply placed the breakfast they had prepared in front of the Fire Wolf King. They looked at it with anticipation. Looking at the broken leaves, the old fire wolf dared to swear in its heart that the vegetables were definitely not fresh. It might even be leftovers from yesterday. So, how could it eat it? In fact, it had guessed right. The breakfast made by the two little fire wolves was indeed the leftover vegetables from last night. Furthermore, they had picked them up from the trash. After they were done washing, they hesitated for a long time before finally deciding to serve the food to the Fire Wolf King. However, who knew that not only was the old wolf unwilling to eat, it was even rolling around on the ground shamelessly. For a moment, they were at a loss. "I'm not eating. I'm not hungry. Take this food and give it to the elders." The Fire Wolf King rolled its eyes and decided to direct the trouble to the elders. The elders of the Fire Wolf clan, who were watching from the side, were scared into scattering when they heard this. Lung Ruoxue looked at the red lights that were disappearing quickly and sighed again. She had lost count of how many times she had sighed. After giving Feng De and the rest a look, Lung Ruoxue led them out of the guest courtyard. She really couldn't be bothered with matters involving this old fire wolf. Just let those two little fellows torment themselves. Also, she remembered clearly that the old fire wolf said it was not hungry anymore. As expected, Grape and the others did not make the Fire Wolf King's portion during breakfast. After the beasts finished their breakfast, they started to leave one after another. When the old Fire Wolf saw this, he took the opportunity to walk in front of Lung Ruoxue and said with a face full of dissatisfaction, "Human, I'm still hungry. Give me something to eat. Didn't you say you weren't hungry?" Lung Ruoxue's eyes widened in disbelief, as if she had just heard a fantasy story. "I'm hungry again, okay?" The Fire Wolf King said angrily. "All right." Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then she turned to the two little fire wolves and said, "Your uncle is hungry again. They're here. Uncle, your breakfast is here." Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the two little fire wolves became excited again. They quickly ran to the Fire Wolf King and handed over the shattered vegetable leaves. "I don't want to eat this." The Fire Wolf King's expression immediately turned ugly. Its fiery red fur also faintly suffused with black anger. It was clear that it was really angry. "Uncle, there's no other food other than this. Just make do with it." A fire wolf said, Uncle, don't be a picky eater, I'll tell you the truth. Those elders also haven't had breakfast yet. If they are also hungry, you won't even be able to eat these vegetables." The other fire wolf purposely reminded in a low voice. Hearing their words, Lung Ruoxue's mouth twitched. No wonder she felt that there were fewer fire wolves for breakfast. They were not hungry. It's better not to eat it. You can leave it for them to eat. I'm not hungry anymore. I'll go back first. The Fire Wolf King said angrily and ran away. They had finally sent this god of plague away. Watching the Fire Wolf King's back, Lung Ruoxue muttered to herself. Then, the Fire Wolf King brought his clansmen to bid farewell to Lung Ruoxue. After the beasts from the land of demons had left, only the first elder and the rest of the members of the leopard clan remained in the Lung family's residence. However, from their looks, they did not seem to have any intention of leaving immediately. Lung Ruoxue did not treat them as outsiders either, so she naturally would not accompany them all the time. From that day on, there would always be some unusual noises in the land of evil demons in the middle of the night, accompanied by wolf howls from time to time. However, Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not pay much attention to it. Not long after, Feng De and the rest requested to enter closed-door cultivation. Lung Ruoxue was also preparing to go into closed-door cultivation. However, before that, she specially brought the demon to meet Huan Chen. Within the dream dust space, a white-robed man glared at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of hidden bitterness. He spoke as if he was a resentful husband. "Little girl, why are you only here now? I've been waiting for you for days." Chapter 1932, Dream Dust Talent, 1. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. They had contacted each other a few days ago, right? Huan Chen was the one who told her not to disturb him and to sleep well for a few days. Now, he was biting back at her? However, when the evildoer heard Huan Chen's words, his handsome face immediately darkened. With a straight face, he went up and grabbed Huan Chen's collar. He narrowed his eyes at Xing'an and said angrily, "What did you just say? I dare you to say that again. Let me go, you barbaric man. Why does this little girl like you? You really have no taste. Huan Chen said, unafraid of death. Good. Very good. You've got guts. The demon said with a smile that was not a smile. After which, he grabbed Huan Chen's collar and directly dragged him away. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but widen her eyes when she saw the demon's actions. The demon was so manly. However, this seemed to be the dream dust space. She had never heard of a guest being able to teach the host a lesson. However, she immediately heard Huan Chen's frightened voice from not far away. Arg! You savage man, what are you doing? This is my territory. What followed was a loud bang bang. This monster really dared to do this? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. She couldn't help but think to herself, isn't he afraid of Huan Chen's revenge? No, Huan Chen had already recognized her as his master. Didn't that mean that evildoer was the one who was teaching her a lesson? Well fixed. Leng Ruoxue quickly made a wise decision. She couldn't be blamed for valuing her beauty over her subordinates. After all, provoking the evildoer would bring her more benefits than disadvantages. So, in order to make the evildoer feel comfortable, she could only let Huan Chen down. Who asked that fellow to be so insensible and provoke the evildoer? This was probably the so-called, one can't live with one's own sins. In an instant, Leng Ruoxue had already made her decision. Huan Chen's wailing continued to enter her ears, but she ignored them all. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be bored as she sized up the illusion dust space. Even though this wasn't her first time here, this place didn't seem to have changed much from the last time she saw it. It was still a vast expanse of white. She really couldn't understand how the illusion dust could live here like a fish in water. In reality, Dream Dust was a lazy person. Moreover, he spent most of his time sleeping. As a result, he basically didn't manage this space. In the past, when the previous owner was still alive, he didn't pay much attention to this space. As time passed, the Dream Dust space became even more bare. To be honest, Leng Ruoxue couldn't tell what was so good about this illusionary dust space. They had lived here for close to a month, and other than finding their way, they didn't seem to have done anything else. Thus, she had come here to have a good chat with Huan Chen and find out what was so special about this space. After all, it was a divine artifact refined by a former divine master. There would definitely be something extraordinary about it. However, Huan Chen still seemed to be getting beaten up. After an unknown period of time, the two of them finally appeared in front of Leng Ruoxue. Looking at Huan Chen's bruised face, Leng Ruoxue didn't even give him a word of greeting other than expressing her sympathy with her gaze. Master! He beat me up. Huan Chen saw that Leng Ruoxue did not care about him and could only open his mouth to remind her in an aggrieved manner. This detestable man not only beat him up, but he also specially slapped his face. Don't think that he didn't know that this man was clearly jealous of his beauty. Huan Chen's words made the demon scoff coldly. Then, his dazzling eyes glanced at Leng Ruoxue indifferently, with a warning in his red eyes, do as you see fit. When Leng Ruoxue saw the two of them, she felt a headache coming on. However, she had to stand on the side of the evildoer. I saw it. Leng Ruoxue sighed softly and said indifferently, Then master, you must avenge me. Huan Chen blinked her beautiful eyes and said with anticipation, What revenge? Leng Ruoxue played dumb and continued, I think you really need a beating. Good job, demon. Leng Ruoxue's words made the evildoer very satisfied. However, Huan Chen was heartbroken to hear this. Master, how can you do this? I'm your tool spirit. Huan Chen was so aggrieved that he was about to cry. How could he have such a master? Not only did she not support him, she even allowed evil forces to bully him. This was really too much. I know. I'm helping reason and not family. Leng Ruoxue said without any shame. Master. Huan Chen was completely depressed when he heard this. This master was clearly lecherous by nature and valued lechers over him. He actually said it in such a dignified manner. He despised her in his heart. Dreamed us. The demon beating you up is for your own good, but look at how lazy you are. You don't even know how to tidy up your own place. There's not even a bit of green in such a big place. It's bare everywhere. How can you live in it? Leng Ruoxue started to criticize Huan Chen again. As she spoke, she shot a glance at Huan Chen with a resentful expression. Master, this isn't a place for people to live in the first place. Leng Ruoxue's words caused Huan Chen to feel a sense of inferiority. However, he quickly realized that his place was not for people to live in. Not a place for people to live? Then wouldn't it be a waste to leave such a big place idle? Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. She didn't know if it was her occupational habit, but whenever she saw the space, she would think of building a house and planning it properly. Master, my place is specially used for training. Huan Chen faintly said. Only for experience. Leng Ruoxue couldn't believe it. In fact, if this place was used for training, she wouldn't have found anything worth training in. There wasn't even a single insect here. There's still the competition. Huan Chen added. Then can you tell me how I can train here? Leng Ruoxue was a little curious, but she didn't ask about the competition. Heaven's secrets cannot be divulged. Only those who have come here to train will know. In fact, there was something else he didn't say. If anyone who came here to train couldn't pass, they wouldn't have the chance to leave. After passing, they would completely forget about the training process. Looking at Huan Chen's mysterious behavior, Leng Ruoxue's anger rose. She had also discovered what her weapon spirit was. None of them were easy to deal with, all of them were so arrogant. Master, are you here to gain experience? Huan Chen noticed that Leng Ruoxue seemed to be a little unhappy and quickly asked. Don't. Leng Ruoxue rejected him without even thinking. Her tone was unfriendly and she was obviously angry. Master, my place was refined by His Excellency the Divine Master. I suggest you come and experience it for yourself. It'll be very beneficial to you. Dream Dust coaxed. Then I won't come either. Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. She would not be fooled. Chapter 1933, Dream Dust Talent, 2, Master. Huan Chen looked at Leng Ruoxue gloomily. Why was Master so stubborn? It was for her own good that he let her master come in to gain experience. At the thought of this, he glanced at the demon without a sound. However, the demon did not even look at him. Instantly, he felt even more depressed. The people around Master are not to be trifled with. Huan Chen sighed in his heart. Shuer, didn't you want to go into seclusion? I think the spiritual energy here is not bad. Why don't you go into seclusion here? After that, the demon spoke indifferently. Hearing his words, Huan Chen's worry immediately turned into joy. I hope Master will listen to this guy. Why? Leng Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at the demon in confusion. She didn't think that the spiritual energy here would be denser than the one in the universal bracelet. Furthermore, she had always been cultivating in the purple bamboo house and was used to it. Your state of mind will also be different in a different environment. Moreover, doesn't this dream dust space also belong to you? You can't be biased. If this space continues to be idle, it might become more and more desolate, so you should just treat it as doing a good deed. The demon said with a hidden meaning. Ah, was there such a good person? Leng Ruoxue was very suspicious of the demon's words. However, she couldn't deny that there was some truth to his words. This fantasy dust space was hers as well. If she didn't use it, it might rust, she couldn't help but think to herself. Although she was still a little hesitant, her heart had loosened a little. When Huan Chen heard the demon's words, he almost went crazy. Depression? Which part of his place was desolate? This was clearly a high-level space beyond the mortal world. However, even though he was angry, he had to continue the conversation with the hateful man. He looked at Leng Ruoxue with a bitter expression and tears welled up in his eyes. He then said with a slightly choked voice, Master, I know you have a good space, but I'm different from it. As for what's different, you'll only know after you experience it yourself. I can only say that you'll regret it if you don't come to my place for closed-door cultivation. Really? Leng Ruoxue was skeptical. She did not know what she had to regret. Didn't this place already belong to her? Wouldn't that mean that she could come whenever she wanted? It's true. It's more real than diamonds, Huan Chen hurriedly promised. After hearing Huan Chen's assurance, Cold Ruox's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. These words seemed a little familiar. Master, I've been to many dimensions with my previous master, so I know more than you can imagine. If you stay here, I'll guide you and you'll never regret it. Huan Chen, who could sense Lung Ruox's thoughts, advised her. All right. Lung Ruoxue hesitated for a moment, but she still agreed. Master, I'll arrange a place for you to cultivate in seclusion. You guys can chat first. After Huan Chen finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. Looking at Huan Chen's energetic appearance, Lung Ruoxue could not help but doubt her own decision. Shui, although that fellow is lazy and a little out of line, he has been living in the divine realm for so many years. He knows more about the various powers in the divine realm than we do. Thus, you should be able to learn a lot of things if you stay here. The evildoer could see Shui Er's unwillingness and gently pulled her into his arms. Well, what about you? Lung Ruoxue looked at the evildoer and asked. All these years, the evildoer had always been by her side when she was in closed-door cultivation. Therefore, she would not be used to it if the evildoer was not by her side. Silly girl, of course I won't leave you. I'll also enter closed-door cultivation with you. The demon laughed. How could he bear to leave Shui? That's good. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head in satisfaction. At this moment, Huan Chen, who had quickly made all the arrangements, ran back excitedly. Seeing the two of them hugging, Huan Chen said with a little dissatisfaction, You're not married yet. You can't take advantage of my master. He was mainly talking to the evildoer. Hearing Huan Chen's words, the two of them looked at Huan Chen in disbelief. Wasn't Huan Chen being too nosy? Why do you care? The demon said coldly. Of course it's my business. My master is still young. You old thing can't deceive her pure heart. I have to keep a good watch on my master's behalf. Huan Chen said matter-of-factly, not feeling like he was being a busybody at all. It seems like I was too lenient with my beating just now. The demon glanced at Huan Chen and threatened. You can't do this. What kind of skill is using force? You have to be convinced by virtue. A trace of fear flashed through Huan Chen's eyes, but he still said without fear of death. In any case, he was his master's artifact spirit. He did not believe that this hateful man would really dare to do anything to him. Using virtue to win people over? I don't need it. I prefer a more direct one. The demon laughed evilly and acted like he was going to grab Huan Chen again. However, Huan Chen, who was prepared, dodged. I'm not going to argue with a barbarian like you, master. I've already prepared the place for you. I'll take you there. With that, Huan Chen had an idea and disappeared from the spot with Lung Ruoxue. In an instant, Lung Ruoxue felt that the place she was in had changed. She was brought to a sealed room. The four walls of the room were as white as jade, and there were no decorations on the walls. There was only a futon on the ground in the room. It was really a simple place. However, the spiritual energy in this room was unbelievably rich. What was going on? Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned her surroundings. After a careful observation, she was shocked to discover that the spiritual energy in this place came from the walls. His hand unconsciously touched the snow-white wall, and the only feeling he had was its smoothness and exquisiteness. After a while, she felt waves of dense spiritual energy pouring into her body. Instantly, her entire body felt comfortable. This place was truly unbelievable. Moreover, she could also tell that the strangeness of this room came from the jade-like snow-white walls around it. She just didn't know what material they were made of. Master, are you satisfied with this place? Huan Chen asked with great confidence. This was the place where his previous master cultivated in seclusion. Although it looked simple and crude, there was a world inside. I'm very satisfied. Lung Ruoxue nodded. It's good that you're satisfied. Master, then you should stay here and cultivate. I suggest that you only come out of seclusion when you can advance to Reverend God level. Huan Chen said with an expression of anticipation. Reverend God? Huan Chen's words made Lung Ruox's expression darken. Was it possible for her to come out of seclusion after she advanced to Reverend God level? How long would that take? Even though Lung Ruoxue did not know how long it would take to cultivate to Reverend God level, she was very clear that it was impossible. She couldn't possibly stay in seclusion forever. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue helplessly said to Huan Chen, I can't stay in seclusion all the time. It's unrealistic to wait until I reach Reverend God level before coming out. Chapter 1934, Dream Dust Talent, 3. Why? Huan Chen's handsome face was filled with question marks. Because my territory has just started to develop, and Feng Da and the others are in seclusion, so I need someone to take charge. Although her godfather would help her take care of her while she was in seclusion, he still had the Ning family. He couldn't stay with her all the time. More importantly, she couldn't be so selfish as to trap him here. You're so weak now, what can you do outside? Huan Chen spoke frankly. Even though he wanted to tell Lung Ruoxue how powerful her enemies were, his master's strength made him hesitate. Was she being despised by Dream Dust? Hearing Huan Chen's tone, Lung Ruoxue felt depressed. She also knew that she was weak. Although she often had many enemies, it was mostly because of the light of her natal flame. In reality, there was still a big gap between her strength and those people. However, she was already working hard on her cultivation. It couldn't be that she was as useless as Huan Chen had said, right? I know that I'm weak, but I really can't stay here forever. It hasn't been long since I came to the divine world and there are many places that I haven't been to. Therefore, besides cultivating, I also want to go out and gain some experience. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly, Oh, in that case, I really can't stay in seclusion all the time. When Huan Chen heard Lung Ruox's explanation, he nodded in agreement and continued, As for training, Master doesn't need to go to the divine realm. I can simulate a divine realm for you so you can just train here. How can that be the same? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She could tell that Huan Chen didn't want her to leave this place. Of course it is the same. Master, I have great abilities. I can totally simulate a divine realm for you, and it's 100% realistic. Huan Chen said smugly. How realistic is it? Lung Ruoxue was very curious. Master, do you want to try? Huan Chen said mysteriously. All right. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then Master, tell me a place. You can just say any place, anywhere. Huan Chen warned. The endless sea. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. All right. Huan Chen replied. As soon as he finished speaking, the room in front of Lung Ruoxue disappeared. In its place was a vast, deep blue ocean. At this moment, the waves on the surface of the sea were turbulent and strong gales blew. She would soon be able to smell the salty taste of the sea. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but rub her eyes. Was this really the endless ocean that the illusion dust had created? Why did she feel that this endless sea was very real and not fake at all? At this moment, a pair of azure blue eyes appeared on the surface of the sea. Following that, a smooth head emerged from the water. When it saw Lung Ruoxue, its eyes revealed a look of surprise. Then, it quickly floated to the surface. Miss Lung, why have you come? We heard that you have your own territory, so we were planning to go and celebrate. I didn't expect you to come to the endless sea. We're really fated to meet. The one who spoke was an old dolphin. It was the one that Lung Ruoxue had saved in the mystic realm and was also the ancestor of her little dolphin. Seeing this old dolphin, Lung Ruoxue looked at Huan Chen beside her with a face full of surprise. How is this possible? Could it be that she had really come to the endless sea? Lung Ruoxue was at a loss. Miss Lung. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue did not respond to it for a long time, the old dolphin could not help but call out softly, Miss Lung doesn't seem to be right. Oh, I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. Lung Ruoxue returned to her senses when she heard the old dolphin's voice. It doesn't matter, Miss Lung, our beasts from the endless ocean are planning to pay a visit to your territory. I wonder when it's convenient for you? The old dolphin sensed that Lung Ruoxue was not paying attention, so it tried to probe her. Let's wait a while. We're all in closed-door cultivation now. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Oh, well, tell them. Miss Ling, do you want to come to our dolphin race? The old dolphin invited again. Not now, I still have other things to do. Lung Ruoxue declined. That's really a pity, Miss Ling. We'll meet again. After the old dolphin finished speaking, it dove back to the bottom of the sea. Following that, the image of the endless sea disappeared. Lung Ruoxue's vision returned to the 4 snow-white walls. What's going on? Lung Ruoxue looked at Huan Chen and couldn't help but ask. Everything that had happened earlier was too real. She didn't believe that it was fake. Didn't Master see it? That's the endless sea. Huan Chen kept Lung Ruoxue in suspense and did not answer her question directly. Of course I know that it's the endless sea. I just want to ask you, how did you do it? And that old dolphin I met, was it real? Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. Of course it's real. As for how I did it, it's related to my talent. Huan Chen finally revealed some truth. Your talent? Lung Ruoxue looked at Huan Chen, waiting for him to continue. Yes, when the Divine Master first refined me, his original intention was only to have a venue for the elite competition. However, who knew that an accident would happen during the refining process? It inadvertently caused this ordinary divine weapon to produce a weapon spirit. Moreover, it also underwent a mutation and gave me some strange talents. Therefore, my significance is not just for the competition. Huan Chen explained with a faint smile. Is your unique talent to be able to simulate any place I want to go? Lung Ruoxue asked in shock. Yes, and it's not a simulation. I made a copy of the endless sea and moved it in front of Master. In other words, at that moment, there were actually 2 endless seas in the divine world. The people and things you see here are synchronized with the 2 scenes, but you're not there. Huan Chen said. This, Lung Ruoxue was at a loss for words. She had never heard of such an ability. Master, amazing, right? Now you can go anywhere you want to train. With me here, you can definitely travel all over the divine realm without spending a little bit of effort. Huan Chen said arrogantly. However, if someone familiar with him was here, they would definitely be shocked. No one would have thought that Huan Chen would be so smug. Amazing. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Could she say that she wasn't amazing? At least, among the humans and beasts she knew, no one had such ability. Even Green Vessel did not seem to be able to do this. Then Master can cultivate here in peace. Dreamdust Way. This was his ultimate goal. I can, but I still can't stay here forever. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. If she didn't know that Huan Chen had already recognized her as his master, she would have thought that Huan Chen wanted to imprison her here. Chapter 1935. A Stranger in the Demonic Land, 1. I see. Since Master's decision has been made, I can only follow Master's wishes. Huan Chen said helplessly. Then he changed the topic and said, By the way, Master, I know you have a little beast called Bao Bao. Can you let me train it? After he finished speaking, he even looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of anticipation. You want your baby to train your baby? Lung Ruoxue was a little surprised. Even though she didn't know how Huan Chen knew about Baby's existence, Baby had been sleeping ever since they arrived in the God world. No, he was in seclusion. Therefore, she probably couldn't hand her baby over to this guy. More importantly, she was afraid that her baby would be abused by the illusion dust. Master, a piece of jade that is not sculpted is useless. It's the same for little beastie. If it doesn't train well, it will only achieve nothing when it grows up. I think Master also doesn't want baby to be a beastie that can't even protect itself. Huan Chen said earnestly when he saw Lung Ruoxue's struggle and reluctance. I'm still small. Lung Ruoxue said softly. Although she didn't deny that Huan Chen's words made sense, her baby was her first little beast and her feelings for him were very special. Hence, she really didn't want her baby to suffer too much. After all, she was confident that she could protect her baby well. Master, that little fellow isn't small anymore. Huan Chen's face was filled with disapproval. But it has been in seclusion all this time, so I can't give it to you now. Leng Ruoxue said, feeling a little troubled. It's all right, master. It's mainly because I know how to increase that little fellow's strength, so leaving it to me is the wisest choice. Dream Dust threw out a little bait. Really? Leng Ruoxue looked at Huan Chen in disbelief. Master, I will not lie to you. You must believe me. Huan Chen was depressed. This was not the first time his master had looked at him with such distrust. All right then. Leng Ruoxue hesitated for a moment, but finally agreed. Even though she couldn't bear to see her baby suffer, she knew that her baby had always been working hard to become stronger. Now that Huan Chen said that he had a way to increase her power, she would let him try. Then, with a thought, she moved the baby out of the bracelet. At this moment, the baby's round body was curled up and its big furry tail was covering its body. It was sleeping soundly and even snored. From time to time, it would blow a few bubbles from its mouth. Seeing its small appearance, not only Huan Chen, but Leng Ruoxue was also speechless. The baby's sleeping posture was not very good. Leng Ruoxue pondered to herself. Master, is this how it cultivates? Huan Chen's mouth twitched as he couldn't help but ask. Aren't all beastie like this? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be relaxed and said nonchalantly, but in reality, her face was burning. I don't care about the other beasts, but this guy definitely can't do this. Huan Chen glared at the sleeping baby, his body burning with anger. Why? Leng Ruoxue didn't understand. To her, it was normal for a baby to be sleepy when he was still young. However, Huan Chen didn't seem to be thinking that way. Master, I can only tell you now that this fellow's background is not simple. Therefore, it must improve its strength as soon as possible so that it can help you. But looking at it now, it's too far from what I want. Huan Chen glared at the baby, his face full of disappointment. Never in his dreams did he think that this beastie would be so unmotivated. How could it become Master's right arm in the future? Actually, from Leng Ruoxue's point of view, Baby Su was just a cute little beast. Hence, she did not have much expectations for Baby Su. In her eyes, Baby Su only needed to eat and play well. It was not like she could not afford to raise Baby Su. However, Huan Chen did not see it that way. Furthermore, if Huan Chen knew that Leng Ruoxue did not have high expectations for Baby Su, he would probably vomit blood in anger. But now, Leng Ruoxue clearly did not agree with Huan Chen's idea. Huan Chen, baby is still young, and he's like a little brother to me. Therefore, I don't care if he can really help me, as long as baby is happy. So, although I'm handing baby to you, I don't want you to force baby to do something he doesn't want to do. Leng Ruoxue warned. In fact, in her heart, her baby was already working very hard. Don't worry, master, I know what I'm doing. Dreamda said. That's good. Leng Ruoxue nodded. At this moment, an angry roar entered the ears of the two. Damned Huan Chen, returned Shuer to me. The demon roared in exasperation. In fact, when the evildoer saw that his arms were empty, he was so angry that his expression changed. That damn illusion dust, he was playing tricks in front of him. However, he knew that this was Huan Chen's territory. If Huan Chen had really hidden Shuer, it would not be easy for him to find her. As a result, after thinking for a long time, he used his unique voice transmission technique to transmit his voice through the entire space. This way, Shuer would be able to hear him. However, this technique consumed a lot of divine power, so he could not speak much. Moreover, he had to pause for a while after each sentence. Therefore, after he shouted, he fell silent again. However, when Leng Ruoxue heard the evildoer's voice, she knew that he was furious. Hence, she said to Huan Chen anxiously, quickly send me out. If the evildoer gets angry, I can't protect you. Master. No wonder people said, you're not married to a girl yet. You've started to side with him. Compared to him, I'm the one who completely belongs to you. So, how can you not care about my life and death? Huan Chen said with a face full of hidden bitterness. His watery eyes were filled with mist, making one feel pity for him. Unfortunately, the person he had met was Leng Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue had been poisoned by the demon for many years. She was more or less immune to this kind of fellow who liked to act pitiful. Hence, when she saw Huan Chen's state, she was completely unmoved. Instead, she laughed and said, "That's my man, and it's only right for me to side with him. As for you, since it's already mine, why don't you let me hit and scold you? So, if I stand on your side, it's simply a waste of time and a waste of expression. Do you think I'd do such a stupid thing? AI. Master's intelligence is unparalleled in the world." Huan Chen sighed helplessly. The hidden bitterness on his face deepened because he realized that his master was really too honest. This made him somewhat at a loss. "Thank you for your praise. Quickly send me to meet the demon. Otherwise, if he finds you, you'll die a miserable death." Lung Ruoxue reminded him out of the kindness of her heart. "All right then." Huan Chen was helpless. It was his greatest sorrow to have a lustful master. However, he also knew that the man was not to be trifled with, so he should stop while he was ahead. Chapter 1936, The Stranger in the Demonic Land, 2. With a change of thought, Huan Chen brought Lung Ruoxue and appeared in front of the evildoer. The evildoer, who was brewing wine and sending a voice transmission warning, saw Lung Ruoxue's sudden appearance and pulled her into his arms without any hesitation. He hugged her tightly and even glared at Huan Chen with vigilance. "Swear, this guy didn't do anything to you, right?" After glaring at Huan Chen, the demon started to size up Lung Ruoxue. However, his words made Huan Chen speechless. Lung Ruoxue was his master. What could he do to his own master? Huan Chen secretly cursed and pretended to be invisible. Who asked the demon's anger to not be directed at him. He had better be tactful and lower his presence a little. After Lung Ruoxue heard the demon's words, she smiled charmingly and said, "No, he only took me to see the place where I went into seclusion. The spiritual energy there is very rich. It's a good place for seclusion." "That's good." The demon nodded in satisfaction, then sent a voice transmission to Huan Chen. "I don't have time to deal with you now, but I'll remember this." So, you can't be that petty, right? I was just joking with you." Huan Chen hurriedly replied as his heart trembled. He had a deep understanding of how terrifying this fellow was. Anyone who was targeted by him would not have a good end, so he would rather let this demonic man beat him up now than wait for him to settle the score later. "I'm just that petty," the demon said with a smile that was not a smile. His brilliant starry eyes glanced at Huan Chen in a slightly provocative manner, causing Huan Chen's heart to turn cold. He knew that this damn demon was serious. When the time comes, Master must save him. At the thought of this, he immediately disappeared. "Master, I'll go make some preparations for you. You can go out and say hello to the others." Huan Chen's voice came from the void, but he was nowhere to be found. Seeing that Huan Chen ran faster than a rabbit, the demon was overjoyed. Those who dared to oppose him would not live long. However, seeing that this fellow had already recognized Shui as his master, he would be lenient. In fact, he was just trying to scare Huan Chen. He didn't plan on doing anything to him, but he didn't expect that guy to be so timid. He was scared away just like that. Not bad, he's teachable. After Huan Chen left, Lung Ruoxue brought the evildoer along and left the Huan Chen space. When she reached the garden, she saw her godfather and the others drinking tea and chatting in the garden. She walked over with the demon. "Shui, you're done with your work?" Master Ning beamed with joy when he saw Lung Ruoxue. Shui had told them that she needed to make some preparations before she went into seclusion, so she had not come out of her room for 2 days. "Godfather, we'll be in closed-door cultivation starting tomorrow." Lung Ruoxue nodded. "All right, they'll help you keep watch here. I don't think anyone will dare to cause trouble." The master of the Ning family promised. "Thank you, Godfather," Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. At this moment, the first elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters looked at Lung Ruoxue hesitantly. In the end, he still asked, "Shui, I've always wanted to ask you what happened during the last few days in the special space." As soon as the first elder asked the question, Master Ning and the rest all stared at Lung Ruoxue. This was also what they wanted to know, but they had never had the chance to ask. Godfather, didn't Elder Yi tell you? Lung Ruoshua looked at the anticipating gazes of the few old men and said with a smile. I sent them away as soon as the match ended. The master of the Ning family said, a little embarrassed. In fact, he was the one who chased the Ning family away like they were flies. Before he left, Elder Yi seemed to have something to say to him, but he didn't give Elder Yi a chance to say it. Hearing Master Ning's words, Lung Ruoshua wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. She thought to herself, did Godfather not plan to ask our family at all? Or it could be said that he didn't care about his family's safety at all. When she thought of this, Lung Ruoshua couldn't help but feel touched. Following that, Lung Ruoshua gave them a simple description of what had happened during the last few days in the special space. However, she did not mention that she had taken over the illusion dust. After hearing it, the few of them frowned and did not say a word. After a long while, the master of the Ning family said, Shuer, can you be sure that they also obtained a god tool that can grow? The master of the Ning family asked, deep in thought. N. Lung Ruoshua nodded. She had asked Feng De and the others as well as Huan Chen. Other than her, who had obtained Huan Chen, the others had all obtained god tools that could grow. This was also an eyesore to Huan Chen. No wonder. Master Ning understood, but Lung Ruoshua was a little confused. What did Godfather mean by this? Looking at Lung Ruoshua's confused face, Master Ning sighed and said, Shuer, it seems like something big has happened in the Divine Master's estate. The Divine Realm has been in chaos recently. A few small clans have been annihilated for some unknown reason. As far as we know, those small clans were one of the 100 people who were left in the special space. If it weren't for what had happened, they probably wouldn't have taken the initiative to ask about what had happened in the special space. In their opinion, the fact that the girl didn't tell them meant that it wasn't a big deal. But now, it seemed that it wasn't a small matter. They just didn't know how the events of those few days were related to the Divine Lord's estate, which actually made the entire Divine Lord's estate mobilize. Big event. Huan Chen recognizing a master should be a big deal for the Divine Lord estate, right? Although she did not know why the Divine Lord cared so much about Huan Chen, she knew very well that the destruction of the small clans definitely had something to do with the Divine Lord. Now that she thought about it, what did Huan Chen have that the Divine Lord cared so much about? Could it be that Huan Chen had some important secret? Lung Ruoshua guessed. Godfather, Uncle Long, Great Elder, you should know about that special space, right? After some thought, Lung Ruoshua asked with a faint smile. N. The three of them nodded. They were a little confused by Shui Er's meaning. It could be said that there was no one in the Divine Realm who did not know about the special space. Its master now. Lung Ruoshua said indifferently, as if she was casually saying the weather is not bad today. Ah. What? Is this true? The three old men's faces were filled with shock and disbelief. How was this possible? That was a special space created by Master Yu himself. How could it recognize a master for no reason? However, what they didn't expect even more was that that thing could actually recognize an owner. After all, in their hearts, they had long believed that the special space belonged to the Divine Master. How could it be an ownerless object? This was too inconceivable. That special space is also known as the Dream Dust Space. An artifact spirit has long since been born within it. He was the one who caused the incident that day. He wanted to find a master for himself, but was afraid that the Divine Master would cause trouble for his master, so he gave each of the remaining 100 a reward. This time, Lung Ruoshua was very detailed. Chapter 1937. The Stranger in the Demonic Land, 3. So, it's like this. The three of them nodded in agreement. They did not know what to say about Lung Ruoshua's good luck. It was Master Yes creation and not anyone could have it. However, they were worried. If the Divine Lord's estate did not find out about this, it would definitely be a good thing. However, if the Divine Lord's estate found out about it, it would be a great disaster for Lung Ruoshua. After all, she was the current Lung Ruoshua. They simply couldn't compete with the God Lord's estate. Even if they were by this little girl's side, They were not a match for the Divine Lord's estate. With this thought in mind, they began to feel conflicted. However, Lung Ruoxue was completely unaware of the three old men's worries. Right now, all of her attention was on her closed-door cultivation. After explaining everything to them, Lung Ruoxue chatted with them for a while before bringing the demon back to her room. The next day, the two of them officially entered closed-door cultivation in the dream dust space. While Lung Ruoxue and the rest were in closed-door cultivation, the firmament was in an even more turbulent state. Countless small families disappeared in the torrent of history, but at the same time, countless families rose up. These were not within the scope of Lung Ruoxue and the rest's concern. They could ignore it, but the master of the Ning family and the others couldn't take it lightly. In the garden, the three beautiful uncles were all frowning, not knowing what they were thinking. However, as the sighs grew heavier, Flowing Maple, who was not far away from them, couldn't take it anymore and jumped up. "I say, you three old men, can you stop sighing all the time? It's just that the little girl went into seclusion. This was not a big deal. Do you have to act like this?" Lu Feng said with a face full of disdain. He truly thought that the three old men were depressed because they had not seen Lung Ruoxue for a long time. In fact, he was also a little depressed. He didn't expect that the wretched girl would choose to go into seclusion as soon as she returned, making him very bored, but he was also reluctant to leave this place. "You know nothing." The master of the Ning family shouted angrily and even cursed. "Little brat, why don't you learn from Huang? Why are you always wandering around in front of us? Go back to the refining room and refine your weapons. I'm annoyed just by looking at you." The first elder also roared in anger. Ever since Luiwei saw the medicinal ingredients that Shuer had specially left for them to refine pills, she had been hiding in the pill refining room with Shen Nuo and had not come out. Only this fellow was idling around all day long, and they felt dizzy just looking at him. Lu Feng was completely speechless when he heard First Elder's words. Was he being angered by someone? Fortunately, Uncle Long hadn't said anything yet. Otherwise, he would have been depressed to death. However, not long after he thought of this, he saw Uncle Long take a sip of tea and then said in a slightly disdainful tone, "Little brat, didn't Shuer also leave you a lot of ores? Why don't you go and forge? Although I don't know how to refine weapons, I know the quality of the materials. So, don't waste them. If you don't want it, you can keep it for Shuer's ancestor and her master. By the way, Shuer's ancestor's master is called Mo Yen, right? I've heard that that fellow is a tool maniac. If he sees good materials, he definitely won't waste them like you." After Uncle Long finished speaking, he looked at Lu Feng with a disdainful and slightly sympathetic gaze, as if Lu Feng had done something he shouldn't have done. This made Lu Feng's heart burn with anger. However, he could not afford to offend this old man, so he could only accept it. With that thought in mind, Lu Feng's face darkened as he turned around and left the garden in a depressed mood. Looking at his back, Uncle Long couldn't help but ask, "Aren't we a little too heavy?" "I'm fine. That kid's skin is really thick." The first elder disapprovingly said, "Yes, it's fine. I've watched that kid grow up. He has a strong tolerance." Master Ning said. In fact, they couldn't care less about what Lu Feng was thinking. All their attention was on the God Lord's estate. "Little Ning, you should go back to the Ning family first." After hesitating for a long time, Uncle Long finally spoke his opinion. Although the presence of the master of the Ning family would make him more powerful, the strength of the Ning family would be greatly reduced, which was not what he wanted to see. "How can we do that? If they knew that I was here, the God Lord's estate wouldn't dare to come here so openly. If I leave, the God Lord's estate won't have so many people to care about." Master Ning objected. According to the Silver Rat King's report, many strange humans had come to the land of evil demons. However, those people were only loitering in the land of evil demons and had not come to Lung Ruoxue's territory. Therefore, it was hard for them to judge whether those people had been sent by the God Lord's estate. However, one thing was for sure. Those people had not taken any action so far because they were worried. Besides, that old geezer from the Wen family was also a cause for concern. If he was not here, Uncle Long would not be able to deal with the old geezer's attack. As long as our divine master doesn't come in person, I'm not afraid of the others. But if the Ning family doesn't have you, the family head, then there'll be a group of dragons without a leader. Uncle Long's words were very subtle. In fact, the more profound a family was, the easier it was for the enemy to take advantage of the loopholes. This was probably unavoidable for any big family. After all, there were too many people in the family, and there would always be one or two rats. Old Man Ning, I think Uncle Long's words are very reasonable. Why don't you go back to the Ning family and take a look? You don't have to worry too much about this place. Shui Er's defensive formation is not to be trifled with. The great elder also tried to persuade Uncle Long. I promised Shui Er that I would stay here and guard this place for her. Master Ning didn't say he would go back, nor did he say he wouldn't tea, but his meaning was clear. That was then and this is now. We didn't think that the Divine Lord Estate would go so crazy over Huan Chen's disappearance, did we? The great elder sighed. Before Shui Er went into closed-door cultivation, only a few small clans had been exterminated. However, almost half of the clans had already been killed. Although the various major powers of the Divine Realm had been trying to guess who the culprit was, they had not found any clues. Only they knew that the culprit was someone from the Divine Lord's estate. This only means that dream dust is extremely important to the God Lord. Uncle Long sighed. The Divine Realm was becoming more and more unstable, and he was very clear that the only one who could turn the situation around was that little girl Shui. It's exactly because of this that I can't leave. Otherwise, if the Divine Lord finds out that Dream Dust has taken Shui Er as his master, he'll definitely do something bad to her. The master of the Ning family said with a serious face. Don't worry. That woman won't know that Huan Chen is with Shui. Uncle Long said with certainty. From the fact that she only dared to attack the small and medium-sized clans, it was clear that she did not want the Divine Realm to fall into chaos and blood to flow like rivers. She had only attacked some of the small and medium-sized clans, so it was probably more of a warning. Chapter 1938, A Stranger in the Demonic Land, 4. It's better to be safe than sorry. The master of the Ning family said stubbornly. He still didn't want to leave. You're the master of the Ning family. Although I understand your love for Shui, you can't disappoint your own family. Those are your descendants. Uncle Long advised. All right then. They'll go back to take a look and come back as soon as possible. The master of the Ning family compromised. Don't be in a hurry to come back. The Ning family really needs you. I'm here so you can rest assured. Uncle Long promised. Although the master of the Ning family nodded, he still decided to return as soon as possible. Then, the master of the Ning family teleported away. After he left, Uncle Long turned his gaze back to the first elder. Uncle Long, you're not thinking of driving me away, are you? The great elder said with a bitter smile. If there's nothing important at the Armament Guild headquarters, then you can stay. Uncle Long said indifferently. I'm fine. I'm very free. First elder quickly replied. At this time, a little silver-white mouse suddenly appeared in front of them out of thin air. This little mouse was the Silver Rat King. Uncle Long, great elder. The Silver Rat King greeted them very politely. The two of them nodded and then began to listen carefully to the Silver Rat King's report. Uncle Long, great elder. My subordinates found that there are more people coming to the land of demons today. However, the strange thing is that they don't seem to be with the people from before. Not only that, but they also had a conflict. It doesn't look like they're acting. The Silver Rat King carefully reported the situation. Conflict? Is it serious? Uncle Long asked curiously. It's not too serious, it was caused by a female human. The Silver Rat King said honestly. However, the way it addressed the female human made the two feel deeply awkward. Little Silver Mouse. You can call us human women, but don't call us female humans. First elder couldn't help but remind. However, was this the main point? You don't have to listen to him. Just call him whatever you like. Continue. Uncle Long looked at the first elder with disdain and urged. Ah. Uncle Long's disdainful gaze made the first elder feel deeply depressed. However, Uncle Long's seniority was higher than his, so he could only accept it. All right. The Silver Rat King was very happy and continued, "That female human doesn't look that good. I really don't understand why those men would fight for her. They really have bad taste. Get to the main point." Hearing the Rat King's words, Uncle Long gritted his teeth in anger. He didn't want to listen to the Rat King's analysis, he wanted to know the cause of the matter. This is the main point. The Silver Rat King blinked its eyes and said with an innocent face, "Then why did they have a conflict?" Uncle Long asked with wide eyes. "I told you." The Silver Rat King asked in a daze. "What did you just say? You only said that the woman was not pretty and that there were men fighting for her, but you didn't say the cause of the fight." Uncle Long reminded him through gritted teeth. "Oh, the cause of the fight was naturally a perverted dispute. A group of people took a fancy to that female human, and the group that the female human belonged to felt deeply humiliated, so the two sides couldn't agree on a word and started fighting." The Silver Rat King patiently explained, but Uncle Long and the First Elder were both speechless. Now, they deeply felt that this Silver Rat King's ability to express itself was too poor. They really didn't know how that little girl Schwer had communicated with it, AI. The two of them sighed deeply and looked at each other helplessly. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. "I'm telling you, that female human was very casual, and a few male humans had an affair with her." Sigh. "I won't tell you the details. In short, my good subordinates are going to be taught bad by them." The Silver Rat King sighed again. Upon hearing this, Uncle Long and the Great Elder almost went crazy. What did the Silver Rat King report to them? They weren't interested in this kind of gossip, but judging from the Silver Rat King's appearance, they probably didn't find anything of value. Thinking up to this point, Uncle Long warned with a cautious expression, "Silver Rat King, tell your subordinates to keep a close eye on them. If there's anything unusual, they must immediately report it. Don't worry, Uncle Long. Even when they're relieving themselves, my little brother is still watching them. We won't let them leave our sight." The Silver Rat King said smugly. Hee, the Silver Rat clan had nothing but silver rats. There were hundreds of thousands of silver rats scattered all over the land of evil demons. How could they not keep an eye on those humans? And this was also the thing that it was most self-conscious about. "Then you guys continue to work hard." Uncle Long wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said speechlessly, "I promise to complete the mission." The Silver Rat King said hurriedly, and then disappeared into thin air just as it had come. After it left, Uncle Long and the Great Elder looked at each other again, and the helplessness in their eyes deepened. At this time, the strangers in the land of demons were still unaware that they had entered the Silver Rat's sight. In fact, even if they had discovered that there were silver rats around them, they would not have thought that those silver rats had come to monitor them. The land of the evil demons was filled with mountains and forests. The mountain that Lung Ruoxue and the others were on was the highest and most dangerous one. There were many other mountains of different sizes surrounding the mountain. At this moment, a group of people was gathered at the foot of one of the mountains. Chapter 1939. Before the battle, there were about 20 of them, each wearing different clothes, but their auras were the same, gloomy, cold, and with a hint of blood. Although they tried their best to hide it, the ruthlessness that inadvertently leaked out of their bodies could not be hidden. At this time, they were carefully setting up camp at the foot of an unremarkable hill. Although they had been in the land of demons for a while, these people did not dare to act rashly. "Boss, when are we going to act?" A young man who was starting a fire looked at his captain and could not help but ask. "I'll wait for the right time." The team leader who spoke was a middle-aged man. He looked even more unfeeling and had a deep scar on the left side of his face that ran from his brow to his chin. He was only a divine lord. Actually, if Lung Ruoxue was here, she would definitely be able to recognize this man. This was because he was none other than the leader of the men in black whom Lung Ruoxue and the rest had met in the mystic realm, Black One. However, Other than their temperament, Black One's appearance and cultivation level were different from the leader of the men in black whom Lung Ruoxue and the others had met. They looked more like a small team that had come to the land of evil demons to train. However, in reality, they had all taken the appearance-changing pill. After saying those 3 words, Black One was deeply depressed again. Ever since he failed his mission, his position in the Lord's heart had plummeted. Now, he was even sent by the Lord to carry out this small task of stalking. This made him, who had always been proud and arrogant, feel very conflicted and painful. However, he was already being merciful by the Lord to be able to keep his life. Therefore, although he had complaints in his heart, he did not dare to say it out loud. As for his current subordinates, they were assigned to him by his Lord, but he knew very well that these people were not completely loyal to him. As for who they were, he did not want to know. In short, he was very low-key now. We still have to wait for the right time. We've been here for a long time. The young man said with slight dissatisfaction after hearing Black One's words. He had wanted to make a contribution for a long time, but his team leader kept stopping them from taking action. This made him even angrier. He felt that his team leader was too useless. Hence, he did not hide his dissatisfaction when he saw Black One's expression. So what? Don't forget, we're only here to scout. We only need to send the information back, and the Lord will decide when to take action. He knew very well that these people were not very convinced of his abilities. However, having experienced life and death, he had long accepted all of this. Even in his eyes, these guys were reckless. He really did not know who had trained them to be so impatient. You're right, but I think it's the best time for us to make a move. Don't forget, Master Ning has already left. The young man said, unwilling to admit defeat. So what if Master Ning has left? Don't tell me that you think that you can deal with Lung Ruoxue and the others once Master Ning leaves? Black One said with a hint of disdain. These fellows who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth thought that Lung Ruoxue was easy to deal with? Having crossed swords with Lung Ruoxue and the others, he was very clear on how difficult it was to deal with them. There was also that Uncle Long, who was not to be trifled with. Even if all of them were to join forces, they would not be able to take care of Uncle Long alone. Thinking of Uncle Long, he felt conflicted. They were both Reverend God-level cultivators, but why was there such a huge gap? He admitted that Uncle Long had lived longer than him and had a higher seniority, but the difference in strength between the two shouldn't be that big, right? Not to mention Uncle Long, he wasn't even confident that he could win against that demonic man. With this thought in mind, he wasn't just conflicted. However, the small group of people he brought didn't know what he was struggling with. After hearing his words, one of them shouted in dissatisfaction, "I don't even dare to try. Isn't this too cowardly? Captain, we're just boosting his morale and lowering our own." That's right, those people are only God-tier masters. If we don't even dare to fight against God-tier masters, how can we have the face to serve His Majesty if word gets out? Someone echoed, "Captain, you're a reverent god. Are you afraid of a few God-tier masters?" More and more people began to question it, causing a chain reaction. Black One frowned, but he was unwilling to continue paying attention to them. However, the more Black One acted like this, the more dissatisfaction they had for him. In the end, many of them were not polite with their words. "Team leader, it seems like you've been scared out of your wits by Lung Ruoxue and the others. What qualifications do you have to be our captain if you're so timid? We want to protest to the master and change the captain. Master Black 19. I suggest you be our captain." A cacophony of voices broke out at the foot of the mountain. Black One became even calmer after hearing the words. As for Black 19, he was the vice captain of the operation. He was a divine emperor. In the entire team, his position and strength were second only to Black One. However, Black 19's mind was very clear. He knew that he could not be compared to Black One in any aspect. After all, Black One used to be the most outstanding among them and was their role model. Although Black One had made the Lord unhappy now, who knew when Black One would be favored by the Lord again? This was not certain. Therefore, he only dared to watch others hit Black One when he was down, but he did not dare to have the slightest intention of doing so. Not only that, he had to take the initiative to express goodwill to Black One. At the thought of this, he took the initiative to walk to Black One's side and sat down with an awkward expression. "Captain, they're just bored to death. That's why they're speaking without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. I won't argue with them. You go and tell them that whoever is dissatisfied with me can complain to the Lord, or they can leave my team. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for them in front of his Lord." Black One said coldly. He was extremely disgusted by the actions of these people. Although he had lost his master's favor, as a reverent god, he was not someone who could be humiliated as he pleased. The dignity of a reverent god could not be violated. "Captain." Black 19 was still trying to persuade Black One. After all, they were all in the same boat. If they failed their mission, they would all be punished by their lord. He did not want to be implicated by these idiots. However, his subordinates did not understand his good intentions. Instead, they planned to leave. Some of them even tried to persuade Black 19. "Master Black 19, please leave with us. There's no future in following such a useless captain." Someone tried his best to persuade Black 19. Black 19's face darkened immediately. Chapter 1940. Before the battle, 2. Fuck. These dogs didn't know what was good for them. It was fine if they wanted to leave, but they actually wanted to drag him down with them. Would he be so brainless to argue with them? "I won't leave the captain," Black 19 said with a serious expression. "Lord Black 19. The man wanted to continue to persuade Black 19, but he was interrupted by Black 19. "Don't say any more. I won't leave with you. I'll stick with the captain." The person who was trying to persuade Black 19 did not bother to say anything more when he saw how stubborn Black 19 was. However, Black One could not help but look at him in a different light after hearing what Black 19 said. He did not expect that someone would still stay by his side when he was at his lowest point. No matter what Black 19's intentions were, he had to owe Black 19 a favor. However, he still did not express any important opinions. When he saw that almost all the members of the team had left, he said to Black 19 calmly, "You should leave with them. You really don't have a future with me. But it's very safe to follow the captain. I know what's best for me," Black 19 said with a smile. However, Black 19 felt a little depressed. There were only 5 people left from the original team of more than 20 people. Except for him and the team leader, the 3 weakest people were left. "What about you guys? Why did you stay?" Then, Black One's gaze shifted to the other 3. "Captain, we're too weak. If we stay with them, we'll be looked down upon. So, we'd rather stay with you than with them." The 3 of them answered honestly. "Since you've chosen to stay, it'll naturally guarantee your safety. However, you must obey my orders unconditionally." Black One nodded. It was good that the people who were left behind were self-aware. He didn't want disobedient subordinates. "Yes." The 4 of them, including Black 19, responded immediately. Just like that, after a small internal cajoling, there were only 4 people left by Black One's side. This situation was naturally passed to Uncle Long and the others through the Silver Rats. A few days after this little interlude ended, those people who had originally left returned. However, they didn't come back on their own this time. The leader of the team took the initiative to greet Black One when he saw him. "Black One, long time no see. What are you doing here?" Black One frowned and asked the tall man in front of him. There were 10 leaders among the secret guards of the Black Generation. They were called Black 1 to Black 10. The man in front of him was ranked 4th among them. He was also a hierarch and was the one who was the most unconvinced of him. However, although they were both hierarch experts, he was no match for him. Otherwise, he would not have been ranked below him. This was also regarded as the greatest humiliation by Black 4. Therefore, as long as he had the opportunity, he would not be able to defeat him. Hey Si would definitely hit him when he was down. "His lord sent me to assist you," Hey Si said with a smile. "Assist?" Black One sneered. He was not a 3-year-old child. There was no way he would believe that. "Yes, The Lord said that I'll be in charge of everything here for the time being, and you must listen to my arrangements. Black 4 smiled evilly. In fact, his Lord had not only sent one team to the demonic lands. Other than Black 1's team, he was in charge of the other teams. However, Black 1 was not aware of this situation. All right. Black 1 nodded. Since this was his Lord's intention, he did not have any doubts. Seeing that Black 1 was so easy to talk to, Black 4's heart was greatly satisfied. Then he waved his hand and his subordinates behind him immediately started setting up the tent and starting a fire. Black 4 took the initiative to sit beside Black 1, trying to get closer to him. Black 1 and Black 4 were chatting nonchalantly. Black 4 only revealed his main purpose after a bunch of nonsense. I've decided to launch a night attack. Black 4 suddenly said. Although he did not explicitly state where he was going to attack, Black 1 understood immediately. However, he did not want to blindly get involved with Black 4, so he simply pretended to be stupid. Attack where? Do you want to attack the beastie here? I advise you not to. If you exterminate all the beasts here, the Beast Clan will not let this matter rest. Black 1 reminded him with a heavy heart. What I meant was to attack Lung Ruoxue and the others at night. Hey Simon said. Are you confident? Black 1 could no longer play dumb. Of course, but you need to join hands with me. Black 4 said calmly. In fact, he looked for Black 1 to be his hired thug, who asked Black 1's strength to be above his. If he did not need to use him now, when would he need him? As long as we join forces, you'll have absolute confidence? Don't blame me for not warning you. If you beat the grass and alert the snake, they will be on guard, and then it will ruin the master's plan. Black 1 said very cautiously. Although he did not want to get involved with Black 4 in this matter, he was also clear that Black 4 would never let go of such a good fighter. Don't worry, if I didn't have absolute confidence, I wouldn't have come to you. Hey Si said confidently. Does the Lord know about this? Black 1 asked. Of course, without his Lord's permission, would I dare to do this? Hey Si raised his eyebrows and said, although Master Ning has left, Uncle Long is still in that house. I think you've heard of how powerful Uncle Long is. After some thought, Black 1 reminded him again. He was still considered guilty, so he naturally did not want to be implicated by Black 4. This was because he had a bad feeling that Black 4 would mess up the matter. No matter how powerful that Uncle Long is, he's only one person. Can't we deal with him together? Black 1, you've always been bold and cautious, but ever since the last incident, you've become more and more timid. This is not like you. Hey Si said with a face full of disappointment. However, the meaning of his words clearly contained provocation. He was still bringing up a sore spot. Just take it that I'm a coward. I've already warned you. Black 1 said disapprovingly. If Black 4 thought that a few sarcastic words could anger him, then he would be disappointed. Black 1 then added, since my lord has asked me to follow your arrangements, I'll do as you say. When you've arranged everything, just tell me what I should do. I'll go back and rest. After saying that, Black 1 entered the tent without looking back. Seeing that Black 1 had left just like that, although Black 4 was a little angry, he could do nothing about it. However, his lackey beside him directly expressed his dissatisfaction with Black 1. Lord Black 4, this Black 1 is really getting more and more presumptuous. He actually didn't give you any face. You must not let him off. Chapter 1941. Before the battle, 3. Is Black 1 something you can call? Hearing his subordinate's words, Hayasi's face turned cold and he shouted angrily, fuck! He could be called Black 1, but what right did these small fries have? Although Black 1 was not favored by his lord, Black 4 still regarded Black 1 as his biggest competitor. Hence, he was the only one who could be dissatisfied with Black 1. The others could not, let alone a small lackey. More importantly, Black 1 was a reverent god after all. If he allowed a small fry to trample on a reverent god's dignity, wouldn't that be a slap to his own face? My lord, the subordinate who wanted to please Hayes, I saw that his flattery had landed on the horse's leg and was suddenly at a loss. When Hayes saw his cowardly appearance, he was even angrier. Get lost. Get lost, don't let me see you. Asi shooed him away like a fly. After he finished speaking, he also entered his own tent out of sight and out of mind. The next day, Black 4 told Black 1 his detailed plan. Then, they stayed in place and waited for the right moment. A few days later, at night, the sky in the Devil's Land suddenly changed. The sky had been clear for tens of thousands of miles before, but now it was gloomy. From day on, the sky was so dark that it seemed to be filled with water. When it was late at night, it was so dark that one could not even see their own fingers, but it did not rain. And such weather was also very suitable for crime. Asi, who was crouching at the foot of the hill, looked at the dark night sky and felt satisfied. He had been waiting for this day for several days. He had finally waited for it. In that case, he must not waste it. Therefore, he made up his mind to hit the target with one strike. After changing into the black clothes for the operation, they followed Asi's signal and quietly headed towards the mountain peak where Lung Ruoxue was. At the same time, there was another group of people who had their eyes on the sky tonight. They were sneakily moving towards Lung Ruoxue and the others. At this moment, the Lung family's main courtyard was in complete silence. Other than Lung Ruoxue and the rest who were in closed-door cultivation, Uncle Long and the rest had also gone back to their rooms to rest. It was as if they didn't sense the impending danger and were sleeping soundly. However, in fact, Uncle Long was not in the room at all. At this moment, he was in the universal bracelet. Through the light screen that Green Vessel had set up, he was drinking tea and eating snacks while admiring every movement in the land of demons. Uncle Long, there are at least 3 hierarch experts. What should we do? Qing Ju glanced at the light screen and said to Uncle Long, I can pin down 2 of them, and you can only be responsible for the other one. Uncle Long chuckled. Their hearts were really connected. 2 forces had chosen to attack them on the same day. If Uncle Long hadn't known that they hadn't contacted each other, he would have thought that they had discussed this beforehand. Do you want to tell Big Sister? Qing Ju asked uncertainly. Although he really wanted to let his sister know that someone was trying to attack them, he did not want to disturb his sister while she was in seclusion. He was at a loss. Why should I tell the little girl? Don't tell her. Uncle Long said quickly. He had to play to his heart's content while the little girl was not around. Seeing through Uncle Long's thoughts, Qing Ju looked at Uncle Long with a smile that was not a smile. He pitied those people a little in his heart. Moreover, it was obvious that if the 2 forces that wanted to attack them at night knew about Uncle Long's thoughts, they would definitely be depressed. Qing Ju, we can't rely on the little girl for everything, can we? We can settle this small matter, so let's not trouble her and let her go into seclusion. Seeing Qing Ju's expression, Uncle Long tried to cover up and explain. Yes, Uncle Long's words make sense. However, we don't have many people that can be used on our side, so, Qing Ju did not finish his sentence. However, his meaning was already very clear. There were very few people on their side that could participate in the battle. In fact, the Old Phoenix and the Dark Knight race were not in seclusion, but they could not see the light yet. Therefore, there were very few beasts that could be used by Uncle Long. It doesn't matter. It's enough for them to have the treasures. Uncle Long said as he looked at the small beasts lying in front of him. Although these little fellows weren't very strong, their explosive power was astonishing. With their combined attack, they could easily deal with a hierarch. Hence, Uncle Long was very confident. With us here, Uncle Long can be at ease. Leave the remaining Reverend God to us. We guarantee that he won't be able to leave this place alive, and we'll let him know why the flowers are so red. Baby said excitedly. It could be seen that its claws were itching again. Seeing the excitement on the baby's faces, Uncle Long doubted whether he had made the right decision. These little guys were clearly the kind of people who wanted to see the world in chaos. Uncle Long, I wish us a happy cooperation. At this time, Baby raised its little paw again and high-fived Uncle Long. Kuan and the other beasts also followed suit. Happy cooperation. Ling, remember to cast the invisibility spell on us. Uncle Long said. Ling nodded obediently. Suddenly, the Silver Rat King appeared in front of them. Uncle Long, I have important news. The Silver Rat King said directly. Speak. Uncle Long nodded. The beasts in the land of demons knew that someone was going to attack us, so they volunteered to help. I've already settled them in the garden. The Silver Rat King carefully said. After all, it was its own decision, so it was afraid that Uncle Long would blame it. After it finished speaking, it even timidly lowered its little head, not daring to look at Uncle Long. You told them? Uncle Long's face was expressionless. Yes, I just mentioned it casually. They were all very enthusiastic and mainly asked for help. I was too embarrassed to reject them, so I brought back the beastie they sent to help. The Silver Rat King said honestly. After it finished speaking, its little heart was still thumping. It jumped around wildly. In fact, it didn't just say it casually. When those beasts expressed their willingness to help, it didn't want to refuse them at all and brought them back directly. But now it was a little afraid that Uncle Long would blame it for making its own decision. After all, when its master was not around, Uncle Long was the most important person. There will be no next time. Uncle Long warned. He had never thought of asking the beasts in the land of demons for help because he was afraid of implicating them. After all, the opponent was too powerful for the beasts here to fight against. Once they were involved, they would definitely have a lot of trouble in the future. But then he thought about it again. If the beasts in the land of demons were more united because of this, it would be a great thing. In that case, the enemy would have to think twice before taking out their anger on the innocent beastmen. Yes. Seeing that Uncle Long didn't blame it for being meddlesome, the Silver Rat King was completely at ease. In fact, it also had its own selfish motives. It should be known that ever since it was born, it had been living in the land of demons, accompanying the beasts here all day long. Now that it had found such a good master, it naturally hoped that the other beasts would also have such a good opportunity. Therefore, after it knew of the other party's plan, it had informed Uncle Long and the others at once, as well as the beast clan in the land of demons. When the beasts found out that someone was trying to take advantage of Lung Ruoxue, they did not disappoint it. They all fought to be the first to help. Seeing that they were so understanding, the Silver Rat King was naturally happy. At least its careful thinking had not been in vain. As for what would happen to them in the future, it could only depend on their luck. After that, Uncle Long discussed the details with Qing Ju and left the bracelet with the little beasts. When they arrived at the garden, they saw that the garden was already filled with many mimicry little beasts. The first elder and the others had also walked out of their rooms. It was obvious that they had already received the news from the Silver Rats. Uncle Long, what do you need me to do? The first elder asked after seeing Uncle Long. You don't need to do anything. You just need to stay here and watch the show. Uncle Long's words caused the enthusiastic great elder to immediately turn listless. Why? First elder's eyes were wide open, his face filled with dissatisfaction. Do you still need to ask? Of course, it's because you're too old. If you go out and fight with those people, you'll be a hindrance. If you get injured, we'll have to take care of you, so don't go out and drag us down. Before Uncle Long could answer the first elder's question, Lu Feng interrupted. Upon hearing Flowing Maple's shameless words, first elder was so angry that he blew his beard and glared at him. You stinky brat, you actually dare to despise me. I think you're tired of living? I'm telling the truth. Of course, he said that on purpose. After all, these two old men had been making things difficult for him over the past few days. You unfilial grandson. First elder pointed at Lu Feng with a trembling finger. He was so angry that he could not speak. Grandpa, calm down. Seeing this, Lu Yue hurriedly coaxed. Yes, calm down. You won't have a chance in tonight's battle. Uncle Long said with a smile. Why? Upon hearing Uncle Long's words, none of them could remain calm. They had long been prepared, but now Uncle Long was telling them that they didn't need to do anything. This was too much of a blow, wasn't it? They were not convinced. You're either alchemists or artifact masters. You're all important targets of protection, so I have to protect you well. Tonight only US beasts will attack, so you can go back to your rooms and sleep," Uncle Long said. After that, he gave Ling a look. Ling understood and cast an invisibility spell on all the beasts. Uncle Long then led the beasts that had disappeared from the sight of First Elder and the others out of the courtyard. Chapter 1942, Waiting for a Rabbit by a Tree Stump, 1. As they watched Uncle Long and the other beasts leave, the First Elder and the others in the garden were completely depressed. They had been looked down upon. Although they were only alchemists and blacksmiths, they also had the strength of divine emperors. He wasn't so bad that he needed someone to protect him, was he? The few of them couldn't help but think, Uncle Long must be afraid that we'll steal their opponent. That's why he didn't let us out. After some thought, Flowing Maple said with certainty, "That's obvious." The First Elder said in a bad mood, "Why don't we sneak out and help?" Flowing Maple suggested, "That's not good. Uncle Long is not to be trifled with. If he finds out that we don't listen to him, we'll be in deep trouble." Shenhua said with a face full of fear, "You really are a coward." Shenhua's words caused Lu Feng to growl in a low voice, as if he had expected better from her. "Are you not afraid of Uncle Long?" Shenhua's eyes widened as she asked indifferently, "Of course, I'm afraid too." Lu Feng's first few words were full of vigor, but they softened in the end. When he thought about the old whale's intimidation, his little heart trembled uncontrollably. How could he not be afraid? When Shenhua heard Lu Feng's reply, she could not help but roll her eyes, and gave him a "Then why are you still scolding me?" Then he also became depressed. "I think we should listen to Uncle Long and go back to our rooms to sleep," Luiyue said after some thought. "Kid, what's your opinion?" At this time, the First Elder's eyes turned to the jungle, who was standing in the corner like a punching bag, and asked with an expectant face. They couldn't think of a good idea, so he really hoped that this little guy could come up with a good idea that would satisfy both sides. Hearing the Great Elder's question, Lin Mu was so nervous that he didn't know what to say. Why are there so many important people around the young miss? He was under a lot of pressure. Ever since the end of the elite competition, he had followed Lung Ruoxue and the others to the land of demons. However, when he found out that the people around his young miss were all influential figures in the God realm, he was so nervous that he was at a loss on what to do. Moreover, his young miss had left him to Her Excellency Luiyue and Her Excellency Shenhua. After that, she no longer cared about his life or death. Therefore, he felt that he was living in deep waters and suffering every day. In fact, the two sirs, Shenhua and Luyu, treated him very well, and even treated him like a disciple, teaching him with all their heart and soul. It could be said that the two of them were even more attentive to him than their own young miss. But for some reason, when he saw the two sirs, as well as the First Elder and Sir Lu Feng, his heart was so nervous that it was about to jump into his throat. Looking at the state of the forest, the Great Elder felt helpless. He sighed and said, "Little guy, why are you so nervous? We want to eat you." "It is. Lin, since the little girl has handed you over to us, you're our disciple from now on. How can you be so nervous in front of Master? Are we really that scary?" Luiyue also said with a little dissatisfaction. Lin Jie cried out in shock when he heard that. Then he looked at Luiyue as if he had seen a ghost. Is Mr. Luiyue joking? He was very clear that his aptitude wasn't at the top among alchemists, so he didn't believe that Luyu and Shenhua would have the thought of taking him in as a disciple. Remember my words, you will be our disciple from now on. Luiyue saw through Jungle's thoughts and patted his head. Your Excellency Luiyue, I'm afraid I can't be your disciple. Seeing that the brawler referee seemed to be serious, Lin quickly said, Give me a reason? Could it be that with our status, we're not worthy of being your master? Luiyue deliberately put on a straight face and said with a hint of displeasure, No, it's because I've already recognized young Miss as my master, so I can't join the Alchemist Guild headquarters anymore, and naturally can't be your disciple. Lin explained. Although he was a registered alchemist of the Alchemist Guild headquarters, he was not an exclusive alchemist of the Alchemist Guild headquarters. Therefore, he was very clear that he could not be a disciple of those two esteemed figures. Otherwise, he would probably have to join the Alchemist Guild headquarters and become an exclusive alchemist of the Alchemist Guild headquarters. However, he did not want to do so now. Brat, joining the Alchemist Guild headquarters and being our disciple are two different things, so you don't need to worry about this. You only need to tell us now, are you willing to be our disciple or not? Shinua said a little anxiously. Actually, he wanted to take this kid as his disciple mainly because of two considerations. One was that this kid did indeed have a drive that no one else had, and the other was that he hoped to get closer to Lung Ruoxue. Luiwei obviously had similar thoughts as well. Originally, the two of them had been arguing endlessly over the forest, and later on, they had come to an agreement to take him as their disciple together. Shinua's words stunned Jungle. There was such a good thing? Was this a gift from the heavens? However, he, who had always been calm, was hit by this sudden good luck and did not dare to easily agree. Seeing that the forest was hesitating, First Elder quickly said, "Brat, what are you hesitating for? This was a good thing that others could only dream of. Besides, with them as your backing, Shuer will be happy for you." Lin Lin saw First Elder mention Lung Ruoxue, and he thought about it for a while before nodding his head in agreement. Then he even respectfully bowed to Shinua and Luiwei as a master and disciple. The two of them were so happy that they broke out into smiles, and kept calling out "Good disciple! Good disciple!" Seeing how happy and harmonious they were, Flowing Maple was truly speechless. "This is a little off topic, okay? Aren't we discussing how to go out and help? How did it become taking in disciples?" He could not understand. "I say, do you know what we were discussing just now?" Lu Feng rolled his eyes and asked, unable to take it anymore. "What's wrong?" First Elder and the others looked at Lu Feng in confusion. "Aren't we thinking of a reason to go out and help? Don't go off topic." Flowing Maple growled gloomily. "Oh, I'm just taking in a disciple in passing. It won't take up too much time." Luiwei said, a little embarrassed. It was indeed convenient. He didn't know why he had suddenly taken Lin Lin as his disciple. By the way, Lin Lin was too nervous in front of them, so they had brought it up directly. Otherwise, they had wanted to say hello to the little girl. But now, they had taken Lin Lin as their disciple without saying hello. Presumably, the little girl wouldn't mind. "Now that you've taken in all your disciples, can we think of a good idea?" Flowing Maple rolled his eyes again, truly speechless. "I really can't think of any good ideas. What about you guys?" Luiwei said awkwardly. To put it bluntly, he was afraid of Uncle Long. After he finished speaking, the few people present began to look at each other, big eyes staring at small eyes. Chapter 1943, Waiting for a Rabbit by a Tree Stump, 2. At this time, Uncle Long had already left the house with Baby and the other beasts. They had each found a place to ambush the enemy. Their original plan was to attack in secret and take them down one by one. However, with the help of the beastmen from the land of demons, they changed their strategy slightly and decided to attack at the same time to catch the other party off guard. According to the information from the Silver Rats, there were two groups of about 500 people. Apart from the three reverend gods, there were dozens of divine emperors. Most of the others were divine kings and only a few were divine lords. On the other hand, there was only Uncle Long, a hierarch, 5 divine emperor-level beasts, and 10 divine king-level beasts on the beasties' side. Most of them were divine lord-level beasts. The difference in combat strength was obvious. After knowing the difference in combat strength, the beastie who came to help was a little worried. It wasn't that they didn't want to send someone stronger to help, but their own beastie simply couldn't do it. Although there were many beasties in the land of evil demons, none of them had the strength of a godly venerable rank. Not only that, even beasties with the strength of a godly emperor were rare. All this time, they had been able to gain a firm foothold in the land of evil demons mostly because of their unity. After all, the supreme powers looked down on the land of evil demons and the weaker factions did not dare to provoke them. Thus, they had set down their roots in this place. After a long time, No force was willing to come here and disturb them. After all, this was not an ideal territory for humans. This time, not only had many strangers come to the land of evil demons, there were even a few reverent god-level spirit beasts. This made them feel extremely nervous, and they treated these strangers as if they were facing a great enemy. Although these people had come for Lung Ruoxue and the rest, it was hard to guarantee that they would not have any other thoughts. Therefore, in the hearts of many of the spirit beasts, these strangers were no longer just enemies of Lung Ruoxue and the rest. Uncle Long, the enemy is stronger than us. Do you have any good ideas? The Fire Wolf clan's Grand Elder asked worriedly. He was also the strongest in the Fire Wolf clan. Baby, tell them our plan. Uncle Long looked at the treasure and said with a smile. All right, our plan is to wait for the rabbit. After Baby said that, he took out dozens of silk threads thinner than hair from his storage ring. Those threads were dark gray in color, and if one didn't carefully identify them in the dark night, they would be completely ignored. Moreover, the threads only looked thin, but they were actually very strong and sharp. These are your weapons against your enemies, Baby said after he had sent the thread down. This is a weapon? All the beasts looked at the thin silk thread in their claws, their faces full of uncertainty. They really couldn't understand what the use of this small silk thread was. Moreover, it was too beastie using one. Wasn't this a little too thrifty? Right? This was a weapon. Furthermore, it's the most powerful weapon to defeat the enemy. Baby said with a mysterious look. Baby, don't keep us in suspense, just tell us. Huoku said anxiously. She was very curious about this thin thread. Don't you have two beastie in one thread? Now listen to my command. Each of you, stand on one side and straighten the string in your hands. Baby instructed. Oh. When the beasts heard this, they immediately split into two sides and stood in a straight line. However, they still didn't quite understand Baby's intention. Seeing this, Baby could only give them a demonstration. You guys look carefully. After Baby finished speaking, he walked to a thin thread and pretended not to see it. He was tripped by the thread and fell to the ground. Then, Baby jumped up and said, Do you understand? I want you to use this line to trip the enemies. And then, the beasts understood what was going on, but what would happen after they tripped? They were thinking that those people wouldn't be fooled so easily. After all, they were all cultivators. They knew how vigilant cultivators were. Your task is to trip them up. However, you have to act according to the situation. Don't just stand there stupidly and don't move. That way, the other party won't be affected. It's the silver rat's problem. Bao Bao laughed evilly. This time, he would definitely make sure that those guys would not be able to return. Then, it took out countless small porcelain bottles and poured out the pills inside, giving them to the silver rats. It ordered, after they fell to the ground, you guys took the opportunity to throw these drugs into their mouths. However, you guys have to be careful. I promise to complete the mission. The Silver Rat King raised its little claws above its head and saluted on behalf of the silver rats. As for the three Reverend God-level experts, leave them to us. Baby continued. Baby, those three are Reverend God-level. Why don't I help you? The chief elder of the Fire Wolf clan said. He felt that it was a waste to ask him to cut the thread. After all, he was a divine emperor-level beast. No need. If there are too many beasts, it won't be able to be used. Don't worry. We can handle it, but after you've completed your mission, if you want to help, they'll be more than happy to. Baby didn't make it too clear, but they had to complete the mission first. All right then. Well, listen to you, but are you sure you don't need to inform Miss Lung about this? The Grand Elder of the Fire Wolf clan asked. No need. My cute master is in closed-door cultivation. Don't disturb her. Baby said with absolute certainty. The Great Elder of the Fire Wolf clan nodded and said, since that's the case, he'll take them to their positions and wait for the opponents to come. It truly felt that this battle was too easy to fight. It had been prepared to get injured, but now it seemed that their work was very easy. Moreover, the battles between beasts had always been straightforward and direct. It was the first time they had encountered someone who used schemes and intrigues to plot against their opponent. At the thought of this, the way it looked at the treasure changed. As expected of the fox race, they had many schemes. The Firewolf clan's head elder secretly thought to himself. Following that, it led the beasts to find a pleasing position and sat down on the ground. Some of the beasts even crossed their legs, their expressions extremely relaxed. However, the silk threads in their hands were all pulled straight. The dark gray silk threads flickered with an intimidating cold light in the dark night sky. Seeing this, Ling cast a few spells and the silk threads were immediately hidden. In the quiet night, it was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers. The night sky was so gloomy that it made people feel depressed. However, at this moment, two different teams were moving towards the Lung family's main mansion at the same time. Soon, a team arrived. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.